Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Fanalysis. Today we're covering The Dragon Prince. I'm Reti 4, this is Greyjedi 91.
Hey guys.
This is Turk McGurk.
What up?
And this is Antoine Bandelay.
Oh my god, I don't have a thing for Dragon Prince.
It'll come. Aspero.
Aspero.
There you go.
Matt, why don't you explain what this show is and why we're covering it?
I'm not entirely sure what it is exactly anymore, but this is The Dragon Prince Season 1, I guess, you want to call it that. Basically this is a Netflix series that was created by the former head writer of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is the only reason why it's gotten the kind of press and attention that it has. And so we have decided to watch the whole season, which is only 9 episodes, and it's condensed into about 4.5 hours worth of stuff. So yeah, it's a short watch. And so rather than doing our normal episode by episode breakdowns that we do for other series, we're just kind of doing a loose sort of critique and review and retrospective of what we've experienced so far of this world. The Dragon Prince Season 1 we're talking about today.
I want to rudely interrupt and actually a note. They're referred to as books. I thought that was interesting.
Yes, it's very much in line with what Avatar was to the elemental magic stuff that they going on, and the intro. Even people are actually making parodies right now about doing the intro, having Callum talking Katara's voice and saying everything. The elves and the humans got together until the humans took on dark magic, and it's
literally long ago. And everything was fine until something happened. It's are you serious? But anyway, which isn't automatically bad or anything. But.
The book, it's called Book, which in this world, there are elements, the moon is an element, so it's actually Book 1, Moon. And I was like, it's like Book 1,
source
water.
Of magic, primary source of magic.
The primal sources,
The primal
source.
But even that, though, the fact that the moon is Book 1 when, the moon was so heavily involved in Book 1 of Avatar, there are so many... This is kind of this is the Samurai Champloo to Avatar's Cowboy Bebop in terms of spiritual success.
Yeah. That's a good comparison.
It's not even so much that the media has set that up for us, even though that's also been the case. That's how it's been played out on all the media sites. But the show itself, as we were saying, the Book 1, the moon, the elemental magic, the premise of the plot, it sets up for our expectations. Okay, so you're going to be the next iteration of Airbender. You have the same team kind of going with it, same stuff going on. So with that, you have expectations of that show. And I don't know if this show, or I don't know if comparing itself to Airbender does the show a lot of favors. I watched it 1.5 times. The first time I watched it, I kept on just thinking when is this going to be like Airbender? Or not so much exactly like Airbender. I don't want to see Aang and Katara come back or anything like that. But in terms of the quality, I was like, okay, so when do we get to the part where I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely the next Airbender.
When do we get the storm?
Right. Yeah. That doesn't really happen for me. Granted, at the end, I do want to see what happens in season 2, and I do like the main trio that we have by the last 3 episodes. I think by the time they go to the town, which episode is that? When they go to the human town,
7,
around there. That's about the time when I was like, oh, okay, cool. I like these characters, but it wasn't like the whole time I was looking for the storm, which was a good way of putting it. That never came up. But that said, I'm currently on my second viewing. I'm midway through right now. I'm liking it a lot more because I'm not holding it up to that pedestal, and I'm just kind of enjoying it for its own sake. And with that in mind, I still have issues with it, which we'll discuss further in detail when we do our more nitty-gritty stuff. But it definitely has room for improvement. But not so much saying that I don't think it can improve. I think it has a pretty good foundation now, where I think it has a lot of potential to make this a very great show in the future.
Yes, it's funny because I came into this with no expectations. I deliberately hammered down on what I was expecting from this show, because I knew if I went in expecting Avatar quality, even if it did very well, it was still going to disappoint, because nothing, or at least very few things, can quite reach that, especially when they're kind of riding the coattails in terms of promotion as much as this one was. So I was going in, okay, expect nothing, just see what happens and be entertained at least. And the first episode actively made me hate what I was seeing. I've never been so turned off to a show by the first episode as I have watching this one, and then immediately flipped on the opposite with the second one. I was pulled in.
It's funny
after
that you say
moment.
that. Just so context, that after you watched the first episode, you specifically said that you were, what was it? You were underwhelmed by its mediocrity.
Yeah, I was.
And now
my mind was blown by its mediocrity.
Now it's like...
yeah. I thought the same thing when he said that, because like he wrote, "I'm blown away by the mediocrity," and I'm going,
yeah, it was.
Yeah, I am too, kind of. But I mean, it was also like not hate it. It was just like, wow, this is really meh.
Yeah,
you know,
precisely.
Like that's how I felt.
Yeah, to hammer that in though, that immediately goes away with the second episode. It doesn't get Avatar quality, and I don't think it ever quite has done. Is the general feel we're getting across here, but it's really good, and I really like the show for the audience that haven't picked up on that yet. But to me, the first episode was really, really bad. Like it comes to that problem where it's kind of like the start of it's not the start of the show for us, really. It feels like this is like a pilot season and started in the middle and left off the end as well. It's like the middle portion of a story. It doesn't work well for me.
Well, for me is like I've seen it twice. I don't have like a great memory for like dialogue, so I don't remember like anything anyone says. But I have seen this thing twice. But it was good because when I first watched it, so much of like the world like flew past me, and I don't know what I'm looking at, and I couldn't focus on it. And I was also waiting for it to be. I was expecting it to be more similar to Avatar. And to answer Antoine's question up front, like, are they doing themselves any favors, like by comparing themselves to the marketing apparatus? I don't think so. Because this isn't even, it's not that it's not the same level of quality structurally. It's not even quite the same type of storytelling. It's the same kind of story. You got like a bunch of kids are like on a quest to like save the world and bring harmony about or whatever. And there's like elements and shit. But, that's like, right. That's going on.
Yeah, same sort of genre.
But it's all just one big story though. Like, yeah, like Avatar has like an overarching plot, but sometimes they're just dealing with like, what happened in this town with this villain, or like what happened with this set of hijinks. That doesn't really happen at all in this show for me yet. And so I don't think of them like you were bringing up, Callan, the fact that the first episode really underwhelmed you. I agree with that, but I don't really feel like the rest of the episodes get actively better than that. It's just the story starts
solidifying. Yeah, the characters for me were the main thing. This show has a real problem with establishment. It doesn't get across the core of the characters in a way that immediately endears you to them, at least not to me anyway. It gives you the brief choices of snapshots they present are poor representations of the characters as a whole and what we get to see later on. So after like 2 episodes and 3 episodes and 4 episodes, I start really liking the characters and they're my favourite thing about the show. But beforehand, the first introduction to them, I was like, oh my god, this is painful. Like the dialogue discussions, bollocks.
No, for me,
but yeah, for Turk's intro.
I had seen a little quick trailer because Netflix always does a thing where it's like as soon as you get on, they're like, hey, look at all these new things. And I'm like, okay, Jesus Christ. So I'd seen the little trailer. I didn't even like put the volume on or anything. I was just like kind of watching it and then like scroll to something else. So it looked interesting. I was like, probably just another kids show. But when I went in after you guys saying like, you have to watch it, like sort of not comparing it to Avatar, but it's like if you like Avatar, which obviously I do, you should definitely give it a whirl. So I started watching it and immediately looking for some parallels because it's the same head writer. You put it, it was a good comparison comparing Samurai Champloo and Bebop to this and Airbender, because there's like in Samurai Champloo and Bebop, there are like episodes that are literally the exact same, like they're different characters but they're going through the same stuff. And that's a product of, the same team or whatever. But so I was looking for the parallels right off the bat, and I have to agree that the characters were a little odd to me. I didn't dislike them, and it did feel very like just kind of traditional like TV pilot. Like, okay, I guess it felt almost experimental. Like, we're gonna see if this works, and it kind of had the same consistent like mediocre story throughout the entire thing, and it did get a little better, but not significantly, where I was like, wow, this show is amazing. I was really enjoying it, but it definitely wasn't getting Airbender level of awesome. And I was knowing that there were 9 episodes in advance, I was like, how are they going to do like great things in 9 episodes, like how are they going to really pull us in and like do something compelling to the point where I want to keep watching it. So
you can do it in 9 episodes, but it's another problem of the show, aside from the establishment, as I mentioned earlier, is the pacing. That the choices they make in terms of how they spend their time are so weirdly off. Like they'll spend an entire episode where I mean, you mentioned before they don't have their own let's go to a town and have some hijinks episode, Matt, but then they kind of spend time on that for the whole knife thing.
It's
but
plot
attached.
It's not really like about anything.
Yeah.
Like, well, that was the one I had like the least amount of issue with.
Yeah.
That was something I was like paying attention to and thought made sense.
But my point is the fact that it turns up then, just as you expect the season to start winding down to some sort of climax. Right. It's just like, well, this is another episode. This is the middle episode of the series.
That episode specifically where they were waiting out that big slug leech thing. I was like, this is kind of weird. Why are we doing this now? Isn't this like episode 8?
Yeah, shouldn't it be like wrapping up right now?
Yeah.
But this is interesting because that specific moment, that's when I start actually caring about the group. By that point, I was invested in that.
So late.
Yeah.
So late.
Well, it's arguably only just complete, assuming that Wolf Girl is joining the group. She just got there, like at that point. So
I'm wondering that too. If she's like their Toph kind of right now.
Yeah, that was my other question. Like, is she going to join, or is she just?
I feel like
one?
We don't know.
It's definitely set up by that, but this show.
If she does not join, she's a complete waste of time.
Yeah,
for the amount of time that they gave her. Yeah,
of course. But the establishment problems, we don't know. There's a lot that the show sets up in your mind that then it just sweeps under the carpet or completely does a 180 on. So we genuinely don't know whether or not she's going to be joining the group because it could just be a completely separate kind of mini story they've got contained. It is bizarre.
I would have been fine too if they were doing like there's a show that I watch, a Japanese show called Terrace House, and what they do is they have seasons, but they put them out in parts. So I would have been fine if this is like, oh, this is just like part 1 of season 1. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like I'll watch. Like that actually makes me go like, okay, cool. That's like the beginning of the season, but they're gonna put out maybe 2 more other parts so that they can release them quicker or whatever. That would have been fine for me. Like, but to label this as like a book. Having
I think that's a mistake. Yeah.
Right. Like that doesn't
especially because the book is how like Avatar framed the word season, right? But also like the very, very notably, and I'm not saying that they set out to do this, it's just the way it is. When they call it like book 1 chapter blah blah blah, like chapter say whatever. Like
what is 8, Moonrise,
right? Would be like the waterbending scroll or whatever. Like I just made that up. There's a waterbending scroll, and like they have like a scroll, like a story that ties in with that title, and it's about that, and it has a beginning, middle, and end. These are not chapters for me. Like these aren't really they don't feel like chapters in a book. Like each one of these just feels like this is all just one big chapter, really, almost. Like you could actually split this into 2 or 3 chapters instead of 9 for me, with the amount of storytelling that goes on. And one of you earlier used the word pilot. That to me is very apt here. Like this feels much more like a very long pilot.
Season.
Yeah, than a season. Yeah.
But
pilot season.
It's precisely pilot season with the beginning and the end chopped off for some reason.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like the overall feel was almost like it's sort of experimental. Like we're gonna see if this is it works.
And that's what Netflix has been doing. They did that with Castlevania as well, where the 4 episodes were not. That was not a season. That was just 4 episodes.
Yeah,
to be like,
I was just gonna, and I think because I'm fresh off of that, I had just watched that not even like a week or 2 ago. It felt the same. I was like, wait, but what? And I knew going in, it's only 4 episodes. That was my friend's pitch to me. Look, it's only 4 episodes. You gotta watch it. I'm like, how the hell they do something in only 4 episodes? And I was really liking what I was seeing. Even by the end, well, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it.
It's actually structurally it's kind of similar because like the group kind of gets together at the end of those sets of episodes, and it's like bye.
Yes, and so the group is completed at the very end, and then it's like, cool, thanks for watching, bye. And I'm like, what? This is so confusing. Right. It would be like if like Team Avatar all assembled in the first few episodes, and then it was like done.
Yeah. And I want to be careful not to like expect too much from the show because Avatar's done and has had like 60 episodes, and this had 9. And one of the best characters, Toph, didn't show up until like a full third of the way through Avatar. So it's not like they had to have all their shit together, but it is really like nebulous, like what all this is until the very end is what we're saying. We're not saying that this needs to be as good as Avatar right now because there's going to be somebody that'll take it that way if we don't frame it.
And that's something I tried to separate myself from early on, actually, going back to me sort of looking for those, even not thinking about it, unconsciously thinking of the parallels. Like, oh, it's kind of like, but I was trying to separate myself from it because that was also an issue, like with Korra and stuff, is you can't expect it to be exactly alike. And especially for this, like you were saying earlier, which I totally agree, that the story's different. The way it's told is different structurally. Mm-hmm. So I want to give it the benefit of the doubt, and I want to watch it from a clean slate. You know, like it's not Airbender. It's never going to be Airbender. Watch it for what it is.
Yeah, it's definitely earned that from me. From the conclusion of the season, I've gone in. Okay, I like what I've seen. I've enjoyed this, but it took a while to get there, and it still has major issues and flaws that we'll address in a minute.
For sure. Yeah, but I don't feel like I got into that headspace until the second time I watched it, because after you realize, okay, this is going to end with them like on a mountain next to a tree with like nothing really happening or resolved like right now. Once you know that and you're not expecting whatever, like your like expectations are a little bit they're not so ramped up, you can just focus on the individual setting and like not be comparing it too much and just going, what are they trying to do here now? What are they trying to do in their so yeah, that helped me. I liked it a lot better the second time, even though, like Callan said, like we've all said, definitely still has issues. Not perfect, but yeah.
Cool. So did we take the short break now?
Cool.
Should we say it, or are we just gonna, or is it just gonna be we'll do it tomorrow?
Minor break while sleep happens on this end of the pond because I have guests that I forgot were existing. So see you guys tomorrow. Sorry about that.
And we're back. So we're going to discuss the first, I guess we'll discuss it in 3 parts because it is kind of like that. It's like the last part where they're taking the egg up the mountain, the caldera. The second part's them journeying to that town area, and the first part is them in Catalyst. So the first part is Catalyst. We are introduced to all the major players, Rayla, Callum, and Ezrin. Definitely think the strongest introduction was Rayla, followed by Callum. In those situations, we got basically the save the cat moment that, oh, she's not an evil elf that's trying to kill everybody. She has a heart and a soul. Yay, we should be rooting for her. So we got that scene. And then Callum, we got the scene of, oh, he's, royal blood. He's supposed to live up to something, and he's not the best fighter, but he likes art. So we kind of get, okay, cool. That's his whole thing. And then with Ezrin, who I feel like gets the short end of the stick, almost all the way into the end of the 9-episode stretch, just is like, he's a cute kid and he likes pastries. Like, that's pretty much what I got from him in the first episode, from all the characters in the first episode.
I wish this had been the whole episode, like just daily life here, and no plot. Just like you can end with like the hint of a plot at the end. Like the sort of the beginning of Rayla's thing should have been the end of the episode for me, and like where she like lets the human go. And doesn't say that to her followers.
Or even before that, just her turning up as a threat, and then we find out how that concludes in the next episode. That would have worked as well.
Whatever. Yeah, like that needs to be like the lead into the next, not the point of this episode. This episode feels pointless to me. Like I don't. It's very sporadic, and we've talked about like awkward introductions, at least amongst ourselves. I don't remember what we said in opening impressions yesterday, but these were awkward introductions for the characters for me, aside from Rayla's.
Rayla's was the only one I found to not be jarring and have a significant disconnect with the rest of the characters we progress through the story, but it was also extremely generic. I didn't feel at any point, given this was the first introduction we had to this entire series, I didn't feel any kind of oomph for like, oh, that's interesting and intriguing and what's going to happen here. I just felt like, oh, okay, this is something I've seen a million times before in so many other shows, so many other fictions in general.
In the first episode, I don't know if it was just me. Did anyone else feel that King Harrow? I don't know how to say his name. Harrow. I felt like his first line, his delivery was a little bit stilted in the way that he was like last time I told you if you woke me up, I'd have you executed or something. Like the way he said it, I felt like, or his performance in the first scene was very.
I think that about most characters in this first episode and the animation. The animation it's notable for that. Like the people described it as having like frames missing. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of choppy motion. It
says going at 20 frames per second.
It's the greatest fantasy story ever told via PowerPoint. It's a PowerPoint presentation with the comment I found on it, which I completely agree.
Well, see, I don't agree after like a few episodes. I don't know if my mind just got used to it, but I really feel like the first 2 episodes are sort of substandard, like in terms of the animation compared to the series itself, not to other stuff.
It does seem
because there's moments where it really works.
Improve greatly. I don't know whether it's just our imagination or it is actually getting better. Is it strange?
I guess you'd have to actually go back and like nitpick at like each frame, because I felt the same way. I was like, I don't really like this style, but like halfway through, I just completely forgot and actually started liking it. It's like, this is cool. I like this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like 3D, 2D, like in the way that it's shaded. It's like, oh, I'm watching anime, but it's like 3D environment.
I felt that should be. Sorry, go ahead.
Normally, I think I dislike it when it's like anime style, because the way that anime is illustrated, usually with like the bigger eyes and like the smaller noses and mouths, it's less like proportionate to like to an actual person. With this one, I don't mind as much, I think, because it doesn't look as like over exaggerated,
It's more American standard animation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
As someone who's someone who's a fan of RWBY to an extent and up to a point, I was kind of familiar with the cartoonish kind of, like you said, the 3D 2D style. It was purely the frame rate for me, like the fact that it was so literally jarring until you got used to it, or whether it got smoother. I don't know which. I will have to look back on it, but yeah, the art itself, I was on board with from the start.
I felt I should be interacting with it like it's a game, like cutscenes in a game or something. For like the first couple episodes, but after a while, this is jumping like way ahead, but like the whole dagger fight that happens later on, I thought that looked great. For example, and like
you mean the one that's in the town?
Like like way later. on.
Oh yeah, I like that one too.
So I go like at some point something happened where I go, hey, I like this animation, and I don't know when exactly it happened, but it definitely occurred.
Yeah.
But yeah, to answer your question about like that line of dialogue, I felt like the whole episode was sort of choppy and stilted in that way. And the king's line, yes, but also kind of the subject matter, like it doesn't seem to be registering with the people on the same level that it registered with me. Like, hey, they're coming to kill me. He's not like, well, okay, they're coming to kill me then. I mean, it's like that's not like he's not like, what can we do to stop it? Like, are you sure? Like, what's your source? Like, I mean, there's no like human reaction to me like going on for a lot of this, especially with Ezra knowing like his dad's in danger. He doesn't like. At first, you guys mentioned that he was really bothersome to you at first, and for me, I was like, yeah, there's something wrong with him, but he gets better for me a little bit more quickly.
Almost immediately. It was just the first episode that put me off with him.
He
gets endearing very quickly. It's just the first, again, with most of these characters, the first snapshots you get of them they ring false to who they actually are, or they'll be completely flipped on their heads for seemingly no reason, depending on the character we're talking about. So yeah, we're just.
I was okay with them right after the Rockstone.
Yeah,
that's like when I was like, okay, I get who this kid is.
Yeah, that was like.
Yeah, that's when he really. Yeah, I mean, you have a little bit with him in the kitchen, which is just cute. He's a cute kid, but he doesn't become. Like an adorable little rascal till the Rockstone part. For
adorable
sure.
rascals would take one or two. He took like half his supply. That man has to make money.
But that's a good example though of what I'm talking about, because at that point in the story, we're like hearing about, okay, the king's about to be assassinated, and now we're watching like what the baker's up to, and it's like, stop baking and man the doors. Grab a weapon or something. I mean, it's like we don't need pastries right now. We need.
Well, I
guards.
thought they didn't want anyone to know.
Yeah, they didn't. I know. You're totally right. I just think that doesn't make sense. Like, there's no sense of drama in this castle for me. Yeah, even though most people know what's up.
Rather than a world choice. It makes sense in the setting for them to not be doing this. But in terms of the narrative frame you're setting up, why is there not more dramatic tension here? Why is there not more focus? And the problem is that they decided to jumpstart the plot immediately, which means they didn't have time for any establishment. They couldn't build up the status quo if they wanted to start at the very beginning. Like,
kind of kiddie and lighthearted, which is kind of what they were doing. But yeah, to start the plot, like the sort of peril involved, like right off the bat, when you're barely establishing the characters, was probably not a great choice.
You can't pair those tones successfully if you're doing it right at the beginning. You have to have an established kind of precedent and connection for the viewers to care about any kind of contrast here. If you do the contrast right at the beginning, you're gonna lose people, which I think they did for the first episode.
I really would have wanted this episode to be the king hanging out with like his staff or his sons, or getting ready for a day that they're never going to get to have or whatever when the comes.
That would have been good.
Yeah, it would have been better if we got to see just what daily life was like for these folks when times are good, instead of dropping them into, we're in an assassination plot and we still have like
AKA,
wacky hijinks going on.
Right, AKA setup. You just need setup. Setup is important. It's a thing that you can't overlook, because it is what makes payoff actually like mean something at the end of it. You have to have like, okay, I have to care about these people first, which they kind of do. Callum, he has a scene with Soren, and you have that, but you don't have it in with the interaction.
I like that scene with Soren.
Yeah, me too.
I would like it as well if that was the character we get from anything else in the series, because that character disappears.
Soren, he does, and then he ends up like making fun of Callum too. When at that time he seemed like he was kind of his buddy because he helped him with his sister. He's like, I get it. You like her.
He seems like kind of like older brother mentor figure type, and then that just disappears and it becomes a dumb job.
Yeah,
for the rest of the series.
that I really didn't care for, because it's like, okay, how come you guys don't fight your dad a little harder on this? Like, you seemed like you were actually decent people in the beginning. You know, like, you guys know, like, why wouldn't you question, like, what? But, like, Callum's like a little brother to me, and you're telling me to kill him and Ezrin? Like, what the hell? And they're just like, oh, okay, did Dad say something weird to you? No? Okay, well, you know, I'm like, what? This is so ridiculous.
This is a segue. Do you guys want to talk about your thingy?
Yeah, well,
as segue to her subject?
The show establishes a lot of confusion in general. Like, you start asking these questions and you can't quite clarify either the answers to them or even whether or not they should be asked, you know, whether they're justified in terms of criticism, because you don't know what you're supposed to be thinking at this point. It doesn't do a very good job of setting up anything for the characters in the beginning or even in the middle in terms of their, you know, their motivation. I enjoy the characters, and I'm very much on board with the series to remind people, but there's a lot of unanswered, like, what ifs and with this that need to be solidified much earlier on, and if not, as they haven't done, they need to do it very quickly after the next series starts. Next quote unquote series, because they haven't really even given us one yet.
You always want to, like, leave the audience wanting more, and you don't want to, like, they only have 9 episodes, so it's like I don't expect them to have everything fully formed here, but it is like it's the way that they've doled out information is almost like you're constantly wondering, okay, are they going somewhere with this and I just don't know yet, or do they not know yet? And it's like, if you're not convinced that they are setting something up, you know, there's something, it's at least questionable. It doesn't mean it's automatically bad, but it does feel a bit aimless and too nebulous for me, you know.
Antoine was pointing us towards the Viren discussion that we had, and how I think all of us, he's the biggest problem we have. We have with this show.
Well, yeah, it is almost like we talk about Soren being sort of like scattershot, like in terms of like what his personality is. It might be a family trait because Viren has that going on in spades. How long did we like this guy before I think we all mutually decided it was after the second talk with the king that we were like, wait, what? Okay.
After the
I knew from the get-go he was going to be the villain. I was like, just watching the first episode, I'm like,
well, and also the mirror too, and him hiding it. Like, what do you got to hide?
Yeah,
but I was okay with his mentality because I knew I knew he was going to be the villain. But when he came into that scene saying like, well, it's just practical. Like, we need to protect you. You are a king. Like, we need to use this. I was like, okay, cool. That's his MO, you know.
It was just clear to me, since the king was giving him, even then, like, giving him just a lot of resistance. I was like, this is going to be the villain for sure. And I think it's interesting that what they do with him is just like, he actually had like a good Korra villain, you know. It's like he's got a point, you know, and a lot of his motivations are actually like, and a lot of his motivations, they're actually pretty good. But I guess it's taking it to an extreme, you know, where it's like, he's actually a really reasonable, sensible. No, he's not. Never mind. You know what I mean?
See, that's the problem.
Like, he's not reasonable at all. After that.
It seems like he's
they set him up as to be this kind of pragmatic, willing
sensible
to go further than most people,
yeah.
but with an earnest core and trying to do the right thing, just struggling with, you know, the moral path for legitimately human reasons. But then 2 episodes in, they just abandon that, and it becomes, I'm actually a sinister, evil person.
Yeah, and there's like, no more conflict,
and you can't tell
that
whether
really bothers me.
Yeah, that bothers me because, one, I really like the initial character. I thought, oh, this is interesting. I love this kind of character. It was very much like a kind of evil Ozpin. If anyone watches Ruby, sounds like him too. But when they abandoned that and they went with the full-on villain stuff, I was like, okay, is there a specific reason they've done that in the story, which leads to Matt and I's theory on this one, or is it, you know, just sloppy writing? Because you can never tell with this series, at least not yet.
He I should mention, like, I didn't actually pick up on what I thought he was until the second viewing because you know, when you have Netflix and it just like plays, you know, the next episode will come on automatically. I think I missed the butterfly scene. Which sort of, like, you know, keys you into the fact that he's doing shady things all the time, like not just since the start of this story. But the staff he carries, right? Like, that's the obvious giveaway here, in terms of, oh, you're connected to the
same staff
original,
as the original Dark Lord.
Yeah. To clarify our thoughts, we were of 2 minds. Either he's the original Dark Wizard, Dark Mage that, you know, invented dark magic or discovered it, whatever, back in the day, and he's been draining the life of the basically magical creatures to extend his life, as we see with what seemingly see with the butterflies, or he's a descendant or someone who was basically completely irrelevant to him, but possessed via either the mirror or the staff when he went into the cave.
Or he's possessed. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Right,
okay.
Or the Dark Lord is possessing him.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Thought
he's possessed by the Dark Lord who was kept in the mirror.
Cooler.
Those are kind of three separate things. It's either he's the guy, he's the descendant, and he's trying to resurrect him or gain his power or whatever, or he's just outright being controlled by the guy. Right. And if he's being controlled by the guy,
it would make sense for the flip of his character.
Well, it makes sense in the context of, in the first episodes, we have the whole scene where he has the portrait with the king. He's like, oh, I remember that day.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great scene.
He had me with him. And then we also, I think one of you guys mentioned, you mentioned that the staff is not in that portrait.
Yeah, he doesn't have the staff.
Oh, okay, so it could be true that Viren was this guy who was actually like kind of cool, but then it's just that this Dark Lord's possessing him, and that's the issue he has right now.
Now, the one thing, though, because I prefer that theory, the idea that he is being controlled by the guy from beyond the grave. But why is he draining like the essence out of butterflies if he's not like ancient old? You know what I mean? Like that's usually what's going on with that kind of thing. Like that's unicorn.
Like my thing too is like if he's like sort of has like a split personality about him, or maybe he doesn't, and he's being possessed by this ancient Dark Lord. How come his kids don't notice it more? Why isn't it like, Dad, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah,
I feel like it's totally normal to them. Like,
again, you can't quite tell whether or not it's a kind of clever setup or sloppy writing with it, because it could be a case of, okay, they've been setting that up with the whole weird questions thing, because they do have that moment where did he ask any weird questions, which it could be what they were trying to show there, but if that case it isn't clear. But also we don't know if he is possessed when it happened, whether it was pre-series, whether it was after episode 1, because that's when it gets really weird, or whether it was some other point in time.
It's
or even what possessed him, if it did.
Possibility number 3, that's why they've established the questionable intellect between the two, because they're very flighty. So like they might just be lazy on that point, and like, oh, his kids don't notice change in him. You know what I mean? Or like, it's not to the degree that we would imagine they should.
They're both a little airheaded.
We have yet to have these questions answered, unfortunately. Which I don't. Again, like Matt said, we don't need to know everything. We don't have to have everything explained to us from the start, but we have to have stuff explained to the point where we can at least trust that we know what they're doing with it. At least have some sort of vague idea of something being planned here.
The reason why Viren is like the major issue here is not just because we can't put a beat on him, because he's like all over the place. And specifically takes up like a lot of the show that we're watching. He specifically has a lot to do with events in the past. He's the one that like helped destroy the dragon Thunder. He's got the staff from
the egg. Right.
He took the egg. Mm-hmm. So he's doing so much to affect the world, and we like know nothing about like why he's doing it or what he really wants. So it is really like vague at this point.
Or even the world that's being affected full stop. We don't know anything about anything outside of this very small corner. And even that small corner isn't really developed enough at this point.
I'm not sure if they're ever going to address this, but personally, as like a viewer, I really want them to talk about why dark magic? Like, why is that? Why make that? I would really like to have an answer.
Yeah, for sure. Because watching it too, even when, what's the daughter's name? Claudia? When she does it, first of all, let's talk about her aesthetic. I love it.
Yeah, she's cool. And I like her little idiosyncrasies that she has in the show. With
it's really cool.
Pointing and then...
The pointing was brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she's, developing her character in particular, she's very peculiar, but, in a, fun and charming way. But she's obviously mastering dark magic, so it's but she's awesome and cool, and she gets to use dark magic, and it's awesome. She, you know what I mean? I love it. So... Quickly, let's please establish why dark magic is bad. Is it does it consume you? What is bad about it? Why can't we just use it?
The only thing we get is that it requires execution of creatures to sort of implement, the draining of life is what it said. That's all we get, nothing else.
Literally, the first time I watched this, I was asking myself what Turk just said. Why is it bad? It just seems like normal magic. But I didn't realize that they actually kill something every time they use it.
Yeah,
pretty much.
See, and I really didn't realize that either. I remember seeing some of the sketchy stuff, but I didn't realize every single time they use it, they destroy something. Which that makes sense.
Because when she did Aspero, she was using primal magic. She wasn't using dark magic at that specific time. Yeah.
And that's where I'm going with this. Is when you've already got the power of like the sky, the moon, the ocean, the earth, the sun, whatever. Like, why do you need dark magic? What could you do with that old
I mean, other
maze
than
that
it
you
looks
couldn't do
really
before?
cool.
And
Yeah,
there
but
are
like, could you
obvious
imagine
questions.
if that was like the in-setting, like, I just want to be awesome, so I'm going to
Yeah,
turn
no.
into Voldemort.
I mean,
So, I mean, it's like, that's
no.
ridiculous. Like,
I'm not saying it's good. I'm
No,
not saying
yeah, I
it's
know.
good.
And of
It's
course,
just
and of
funny.
course, Matt isn't saying that these questions can't be answered. It's just a case that it needs to be. It's something that has to be discussed because otherwise, why don't humans just go the elven route and go with the ambient magics, go with the moon, the sun, the stars? There needs to be a reason they were specifically set apart and opened up this new branch. It can't just be nothing because
Was it really just because some guy was like, "This is cool. Let's do this instead"?
It would be terrible.
It doesn't seem to be, we've not been given a reason to disrupt the natural order of things, like from what I can tell. And I don't even feel like the need to answer or ask that question in Harry Potter because like magic is so pervasive and all over the place that you could literally do anything. So why couldn't you use it in a dark way? But in this, it's like, like this is only like 1,000 years ago. It seemed like the world was totally fine before humans specifically did this thing. Could we please have a reason?
Was it humans or was it just this one? Because it isn't even clear on that.
Well, it was this. He was a human, and the way that they put it is like a human mage.
Therefore,
and we all got
excommunicate the entire species somehow. Like, how did they even accomplish that? There needs to be questions that need answering at some point. How did they accomplish any of this?
That one, I don't. I'm not saying you're wrong that they could or should answer that question, but I don't expect them to even go there because it's kind of like as a kind of like a given, like and then everyone was banished and now we're here,
and then the Fire Nation attacked. It's one of those instances. Yeah. Just more happens.
And the fact that this is all coming into question and it's in conflict makes the scene between the king and Varian that much more like because the king keeps saying like we can't use dark magic, and it's just that us as a viewer are supposed to be like, yeah, it's dark, it's bad, but we don't really absolutely like know at that point why. So, or he keeps saying like shortcut, or like there's going to be he said there's going to be consequences. We use another word for it. He used the term for consequences.
Price. Yeah, blood price.
Blood price. And even in the case of them killing the dragon, like I don't see how that is negatively affecting. Like, is it like their crops don't grow anymore or something? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, what? Like, give me a reason for why.
The border isn't protected. That's all we
consequence?
Get. So now there can be war. Basically, the dragon was the only thing stopping war, supposedly. But if neither side wants war, then there's no issue. So it's like even the
because they could have came in and invaded.
Yeah, even the hate, the tensions of hate, they don't make sense outside of boogeyman.
Yeah,
that's all we have.
They feel pretty paper thin.
Yeah,
for sure.
We need, and again, this can all be explored. And this can all be developed. My point is, it needs to be set up at least to a certain extent early on for us to care about the stakes, for us to care about this great journey that these characters are going to go on. Because it doesn't establish anything in the show at all until after the fact.
It's really tough to tell if this guy Viren actually believes that narrative he's pushing forward about how that egg would have been a dangerous like super weapon, or if he's just using all this as a stepping stone to power. Like I don't know. I don't know
what kind of power.
Does
Does he want political power? Does he want magic power? Does he want both? Why?
Well, I think
we know nothing.
His intentions are so
Sorry.
shrouded in mystery as it is. It's really difficult to even ask that question. Like, what question should I be asking right now? Because I don't know shit.
And if he was just generic villain, that would be fine. But it's the fact that we were given this pragmatic, seemingly earnest person who genuinely cares. Precisely. We have had nothing to say that he does not genuinely care about his king as a friend. But then, did he always care? Was he lying? Was it up until a point and then he betrayed him because he was hurt by the ridiculous forced drama scene? Or like, where are the lines drawn here? Where's the king
kind of screwed up too in that scene where, I mean, I get they were trying to create tension or drama in that scene, but him to belittle him and be like, you need to be on your knees, immediately.
It was horrifically
whoa,
forced.
That's not how you lead people. I don't know why you would.
Yeah, because he went from being like an Obama to what the hell? It didn't make any sense because he seemed like an earnest dude too. Like he was really just like, I'm ready to pay the price.
Right, and then for him to turn to be like,
yeah, I'm like
holding his title over who's supposed to be his lifelong friend or whatever. That was off to me as well.
No matter how you slice it, that scene does not make sense given the context. That was purely forcing the drama without any other explanation attached.
I could have accepted it if he had established that he had ordered against some things that Viren had gone ahead and done anyway, even though the king had in the past said, don't do this. And he just did it anyway because I just knew it was right and it worked out. He's like, well, I'm telling you not to do it this time. I would have
if that was a setup. But again,
but instead he literally says, no, he literally says, I've let you go along with doing. I've gone along with this forever. So it's like, okay, so you're only now making a show of force, and it's kind of like, why, like, and why now? Like, it also always feels very nebulous and just in the air to me, because even the threat is just a pack of elves outside your gate right now.
Yeah.
It's not like
well, we can move on to them, because yes, that's another thing.
They're not a threat.
Right, because here's the thing:
God,
in the
yeah.
first two
Creatures
episodes, they
are-
completely and they're unstoppable. And you have even a joke with Claudia saying like, "Oh, I'll stop them. I'll make it stoppable, stop," and then they are defeated and killed.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Pretty
wait,
easily.
time out, show. You just told me for 2 episodes, and I was like ready for them to be like uber powerful, and then like, okay, they're gonna be invisible. You
And
cannot
just kill
fight
everybody.
someone. You know,
Yeah.
and then they come in, and then they're defeated. So again, it's
Yep.
like it's consistently inconsistent. The
Yeah,
show, at,
precisely.
like, you know.
Yep, we've been saying that the whole time.
Yeah. It's. I mean, it's not like they were just. It wasn't like they said. They specifically said that that without 6 of us, it won't work. So the only explanation you can have for this setup is that it's the boogeyman thing. The humans overestimating the elves because of the stories that they were told, and they've always been wrong. But then you have the fight between Rayla and Renan, which is proving that they're pretty damn capable and way above the human norm. Being able to do these super ninja skills and having this kind of vaguely invisible form. But then when they fight the human guards, they're just slightly better than them, and obviously not enough. I was expecting, from the way to describe it, they can penetrate any defense. I was expecting incorporeal forms going under cracks of doors and invisibility and speed and all this stuff they were invoking in our minds with the moon elves, or moon shadow elves, discussion, and we don't get any of that. It's just slightly blurry elves.
Yeah, I would have bought it if they were just like way too elite as warriors. Like, they weren't even that though, because it seems like everyone died except for Runan there.
Right.
Like they didn't have any other prisoners.
Guys, they even run like ninjas.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, they do.
Ninjas,
Yeah.
Shinobi.
So it's like so I'm supposed to buy that someone like Soren, who I guess is like the Jaime Lannister of this show for some reason,
Youngest Crownsguard in history.
like took out everybody, like aside from like him and his like everyone in his like little band looked like little kids to me. It's like, where are your guards? I mean, I get we're doing like Avatar where like kids drive like the plot here, but this is like a kingdom. Like it just seems like maybe it should be better manned than it is.
It's fine, Matt. They're all defending the breach with a Maya. That's where they are. But even that, with nothing. I said before that there's one establishing shot of the town in this, pretty much. Otherwise, it's just focusing on the castle. And this is supposed to be the capital of the entire kingdom that is one of 5. We have these things thrown at us, but they're never defined properly. They're never established. The importance of. So why is this kingdom so important to the setting? Why is this kingdom able to accomplish what it does? Slaying the 1,000-year-old dragon. How is this one mage able to do that? And if it was that easy, why hasn't it been done before? And there are so many questions flying at you with every single thing that you can't properly sit down and kind of enjoy the rest of it without some heavy headcanon.
Yeah, which I normally don't need to enjoy my stories, but I had to employ that in order to get by this time around.
But it says something that we're willing to even entertain that, because as Turk said earlier, with the character of, for example, Claudia, she doesn't really have much of a character beyond the fact that she's endearing and engaging in her mannerisms and her quirkiness. Because we don't really know anything outside of that. Motivations,
I mean,
drive.
you can say that about like everyone for me. So
Yeah,
pretty
far.
much,
really
yeah.
Aside from the fact that I like them, I don't really know anything about them. Like the only one that's kind of hinted at like her backstory is sort of Rayla with like her parents' shameful.
Right.
I'm totally calling
whatever.
it, by the way. They're in the coins. The entire of those guards are in the coins.
The guards, you said?
Yeah,
Maybe.
the dragon guards. They've definitely been captured by
the dragon guards.
Byron in the coins, calling it now. But her backstory is the only one that's been explored in any depth, and even then, it doesn't really give you the motivation outside of her initial drive for being there at the start of the story. We don't get who these characters are outside of their personalities.
So you've got Callum, who's like, I'm the step prince, and like my dad, who knows who the hell that is. There's like we don't know anything about that. Does he like his dad? Does he know who his real father is? Is that going to be a thing?
Yeah, that was another
Esmond
thing
is
that
sort of-
bugged me.
Which is fine. Like, I mean, this is for me. Like, that's when I'm willing to wait for an answer for. But like, my point is like the Claudia thing you mentioned, Callan, where like you were like, she has like a nice personality, but we don't know anything about her. We don't know anything about any of them. You know what I mean? Ezrin, maybe there's not much to know other than that. Well, the one reveal later on.
Yeah.
But like, they're all just kind of there. Like, you either like them or you don't. And I think if you find their personalities engaging, you want to know more. And like, that's the step I'm at. But I really don't know anything about these people.
Yeah.
You know, even the reveal with Ezrin later, like I caught that from like the very beginning. I was like, why are we treating this like this huge reveal? Like it's really obvious in the beginning.
Yeah, they kind of rode the line between making it a big reveal and making it kind of an explanation of what we'd already kind of guessed. But the way they did that, the tone felt off. It felt like this. Why are you treating this like it is some sort of magical story moment? It's not. It's just a thing that's very clear and now is finally getting explained. You know,
Well, and also the fact that Callum says he's lying and that if that magic doesn't exist, and I was like,
yeah,
you guys could like shoot air out of your
also,
mouth.
it's so provable.
Yeah.
It's so provable. Just ask him something
right,
again.
Like, here, I'll talk to one of them right now.
It didn't work out that one time, so he just writes it off. This is just, again, manufactured drama. It doesn't work.
Yeah, and it also seems uncharacteristic of Callum.
Yeah, to be so dismissive of his brother, who clearly cares about and is willing to commit, energy towards, and even with the stupid dance thing, which, as Matt said before, was terribly timed, if enjoyable in the moment.
Anyway, so where are we talking about? We're finishing up in Kotolis. What's it called?
Kotolis.
What's the place called? Kotolis.
The Kotolis.
That part.
I love that.
Yeah, it's when the kids meet up. I think this is when the show starts getting like better for me, is when they're together and they're actually going out and doing their thing, especially when they get out to the river and the town. Rayla is the highlight for me, I would say. I think her comedy of everyone probably works the best. For instance, I think again, with going back to the king, he had the scene where it was very dramatic. They're like, I'm going to die, I'm going to put on my armor, get my sword ready, and then like you have his, I forget what the parrot bird thing come, and he's like, you give the best kisses. And I was like, why do the MCU bathos right here, Yeah, so like there's moments like that doesn't work. But then you have things with like Rayla when she talks about, oh no, the boat's gone, and like her fear of water, so like that. Like I think her comedy for most of it worked for me, and I think the comedy, it is hit or miss, but I think it's more on the hit side, for sure. Like one of the instances when she gets she's going back to the castle, and she overhears the two guards talking about eggs and how many eggs.
I thought that was hilarious.
That was very Avatar-esque, and I thought that was like, okay, that's a good element to bring over, and that works pretty well.
Yeah, she was like, tomorrow's 3. We don't need to talk. like you could tell, like that's their whole relationship. She hates being on. And actually, in the credit scene, it bothers to show that guy getting his breakfast. Like in the there's an illustration of him eating his dinner the next day.
That's so Airbender.
Yeah,
Jesus
that kind of
Christ.
thing, it really rang true for me as well. It was just enjoyable, but again, it didn't take away from the moment, the tone, or the story, or the pacing at all. It was this in between slotted moments of when that works best. That kind of humor, as that was.
I think that as far as the humor goes, I definitely agree that Rayla's a big flagship for humor in this thing, but I really like Callum. He had some moments where I was just like literally laughing out loud, like, oh my god, why?
Yeah,
it was really funny.
There was a moment that the first that kind of hit me was when he said, "Oh no, I'm not really anything." The way he kind of said that, and is just earnestly believing like I'm not really anything, because it kind of speaks true to who he is at that moment. While at the same time being funny. I like how they put those little mini jabs or comments into the narrative and the dialogue, without breaking any of the moments.
He had a few moments. There was one in particular that I remember like laughing out loud. I don't know why it was so funny, but when they go to the pet place in the in the town, and he's like, they see like the sign, it has like 2 animals on it, and it's like, I guess this is the place. It's like either that or it's a dating service for pets or some stupid crap like that. I was like, wow, that is
he's
the
not
dumbest.
wrong from the side.
Yeah, it was just one of those moments like, huh.
And their sequences, I think, at the lodge were really good too, especially when Amaya comes into it, which has one of my favorite fight scenes. I think the first time I actually was like, for most people, I think they like the Runan and Rayla fight on the battlement, which I thought was okay, but it was what really got me. I was like, the Amaya versus Rayla fight
easily
was
the best one for me.
The highlight.
It's so much more grounded, so much more, and there's so much more at stake in that moment. You know about the characters more. And
it's a different kind of fight. Like Amaya's just fighting with a shield the entire time. You know what I mean? Like it's really cool. And Amaya herself is pretty cool that they have her, being deaf and signing. Like that's a really dope element to add to the fantasy series, because they're doing that really well. Is like including a lot of different elements of character, even though it might not be very deep. It's very surface level right now. They are doing at least that part right. Like I was saying with the Claudia and her little shtick, and then Amaya and her being deaf and the signing. I think they are doing that part well, if not all the way like deep.
It's weird
has a
because
very-
it's been so many years since I've seen him sign, before me for any great deal of time. So I was like, I kind of tried to pick up the bits that I remember from primary school, and I was like, wait, what? No, this isn't going to work because it's ASL. I was like, she did a few things that were completely wrong to me, like questioning, like when she turned around and says what, I was like, that's not what. What are you doing? So yeah, it was weird to see that again.
It's only an issue if you live in the UK.
Yes, yeah.
America,
damn it,
okay.
because you do the one-handed
We're
signs
fine.
rather than the two-handed and all that jazz. So I was like, God damn it, the one time to make use of the skill, and it's worthless.
Feels very Dragon Age to me. You guys play Dragon Age?
I would watch my
she is
brother
like
play it.
she definitely is like a Dragon Age sort of character. Like actually,
So
when I think about
a lot of them are sort of like and like we said before, it's nothing that's like revolutionary. It's never been done before. There are things I think that little nuances that have never been done before that they make the characters more unique instead of just like the cookie cutter. This is the mage and this is the knight, and but it all feels very Dragon Age to me.
Even like posture and her character design, I get what you're saying there. I've not even played Dragon Age other than seen little bits of clips, and I get where you're coming from with that.
Excuse me, you haven't played Dragon Age Origins?
Nope. Well, I mean, yes.
And you call yourself
I've
like
not
a
played it
gamer?
through-
Like I'm not a gamer, but you need to play that game.
I've not played
That's
it through to
ridiculous. It's
completion.
one of the
I
best
should
games
say.
that's ever been. You really do need to play that game, please.
It's
I'm
pretty
begging
good.
you. It's not pretty good. It's so good.
Pretty good.
But anyway,
It's fantastic.
yeah. But yeah, she's my favorite character. Other than she's like my favorite tertiary character,
Right.
for sure. And I like that. Pretty much every move she makes sense. There's like it's normally kind of undone by the actions of someone else, but she's both a badass and competent. Like she's smart, and I like the
Her
combination.
fighting
Of,
style is effective for sure. It's to the point.
We'll just have political decisions as well. The way she treats other characters, like her treatment of Viren, I can never remember the damn name. Viren
I thought it was perfect.
is
for like
brilliant. I love
for
her
the kind
interactions
of
with him.
because this is not Game of Thrones, so I don't expect like not that they're writing Game of Thrones can't write like Game of Thrones anymore, but like old Game of Thrones, I don't expect that quality of writing for like a kid series. But when it comes to like politics, this is as close to good as I think it can get in terms of making
Or
sense,
how
being
good it
logical.
should get, because we should say like we shouldn't be spending all that time in a kid's show.
Yeah, sure.
Or explaining all that stuff, because that's not what it's for.
For sure.
The
If I'm
importance
not
of
making it
sovereignty and
clear-
the weight of an absent throne can't really be explored any more than they did in this with the single description of it. I think they accomplished a lot with a little there.
Yeah, point being, I'm very happy with the way Amaya handles Viren. It makes a lot of sense. Is true to her character, and I don't. Do we want to talk about like the lodge directly? Like nothing really happens.
I could
here,
do without
but,
her stopping the search for an intruder to give the meal to the kids, and also the whole
See, this
letting
is
her
what
go
I'm saying.
because Monster Elf thing. I was like, like you said, the
But see-
writing forces things around her sometimes.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Is like that kind of thing would happen in a series like Avatar, where like all of a sudden we're focused, and then something comes and disrupts your flow, and now you're focused on a dumb joke. Like that happens all the time, and especially it is a kid series. And I actually did laugh because I thought that was, for some reason, so stupid it was funny when like the interpreter got firm, like because it's not even. There was something about that dynamic. It was like breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It was like
he reads
why
her
are
expressions to kind of
you
add
can
the
read her
severity. It's
expression and like
brilliant.
say that. Yeah, I thought that's hilarious.
I found it funny.
I like
to
the
clarify,
sequence.
it was a funny moment. It kind of broke the sequence
That
of
was
her introduction and the tone for me. Then that was all. It was an example of the humor falling or being misplaced, even though it was successful in the moment. The main one though for me is the whole manufactured drama outside. Because why didn't they just tell her the truth? It was a case of we can't have them attached to a royal group. They have to be on their own to make this a story. They can't come forward and explain the whole situation because that won't work for the story.
Even if it was just like his own like personal bias sort of coming out and him having to understand that it's wrong, you know what I mean? It's wrong to perpetuate the stereotype of elves, you know what I mean? Like, the truth. Rayla's not terrible. Why don't you try to do something about it? He's like, no, it's just easier to lie and just say what they already know.
I think
I thought that was silly.
I'm not sure if maybe it's just, I think it's like a translation issue here because I completely buy what they're trying to do. I don't know how successful they were, but the idea is that a team of these things just came into the kingdom and murdered the king, and now here's one with you. And she clearly has been, if not fighting them, then holding like the line against them for like who knows how long, like her career as a general. So maybe she is not going to be reasonable. Maybe that's her character flaw. Like for all that we are saying, she's competent, she's badass, she's cool and amazing. She's racist against elves, and maybe understandably.
Well,
But we don't know.
That.
It's another kind of headcanon thing because that's never really presented.
But we know that that's at least the way Callum sees her. he definitely, because he has that in conversation. That's not an assumption we have to make. He tells Ezra she's not going to buy this. So I don't know if, like I said, it might not have been successful to you, but the pieces are there. I think this was like not a complete fail for me. I don't think it was complete manufactured drama. I just think it wasn't assembled quite perfectly.
Yeah, because it did occur to me, like it was a thought. What Callum said was, well, why don't they? She seems like a sensible person. I mean, even seeing her later with Viren, like I'm not buying it. You know, she seems like she sees and cuts through all the bullshit. So.
I mean, what do they have to lose, though? Is the question. You know, what?
Yeah, at least try and then be like, you know what? No, she's just a bloodthirsty elf.
It just seems like it was an odd moment for me. Like it felt as I was watching it, like this has to happen for them to get away and be on their own, basically.
If nothing else, I don't know, and I don't know that she would have just like, yeah, okay, take the egg. You know, she probably would have secured that and brought it back to like the human lands or something. Because like the only one that we know was against this was the king, and he's supposedly dead right now. You know what I mean? We don't know like Amaya's stance on what to do with the dragon egg.
Worth noting, by the way, that none of us buy that, right? That he's not actually dead.
Oh yeah, he's totally not dead. He's the bird. Like he's clearly the bird. He's the bird. Yeah.
No, that's usually a redirect in. I mean, any sort of visual storytelling. We didn't see them die doesn't mean they're dead.
Yeah, I mean, even the body.
That's number one. That's like a trope thing. Like okay, we cut away from the king's death and we bury him or burn him even though his body's covered up and whatever. We don't see him die. That's like trope. Then like personal grievance I have with it. He's not had like a meaningful scene with Ezrin. He has with Callum. It was a good scene. But it's like, you have two sons. Like, are you really not going to have like a scene with your son ever?
And your biological son as well, which is something that supposedly has significance here.
Yeah, you've got like this bird thing that like you talk to, and we make a note of other people addressing the bird afterward, like Viren. And then there's this reveal that Ezrin can understand animals. Yeah, that's not going to be, he's never going to hear his father, right? And then also it's like that, what would they call it? A soul biter or soul fang?
Yeah.
That's an oddly specific thing to construct and then never do anything with. Yeah. Like that's a lot of thought goes like put into that plot device and then just go, oh, never mind, we won't use this. You'll never see that again. Like that's not going to happen. So yeah, the king is totally alive.
But it ties back into that logical inconsistency again, because if he's possessed or if he's the original Dark Mage and isn't genuine about caring about the king, why does he keep him alive? And if he doesn't, and he doesn't keep him alive for any other reason than or if he is rather genuine, if he does care about the king, and he was keeping him alive because he's underneath it all he does genuinely care about him. Why does he then say not got a song for us after the fact? Why is he so spiteful towards him? So it's like, where is this all sitting in our heads right now?
I have no idea.
It's so up in the air on every level. If any of this is even right, it may just literally be that the king's dead. For all we know, you can't draw the line on where you trust the writers to have a plan. Which I don't think I've ever had with a series that I've loved this much, because I really do like the series, for the record. It probably doesn't sound as much because we're focusing on the criticisms.
It's really hard to explain this because I'm like fighting with this series every step of the way, even though I like the characters and the idea of the setting and everything. But it is like, what am I looking at any given moment?
It is bizarre.
But,
sure. I think it's the thing that makes it tough is like structurally it kind of like falters a little bit here and a little bit there. So it's like, I think that's what makes it just like, oh, overall, it's really great. It's like, it's pretty good, but problems.
And because we haven't talked about this, and I kind of forget that this is the thing. Sometimes they went to the lodge to get that cube thing, which the purpose of that is to like it senses magic. What type? Yeah. Did he have a like a particular reason to want that?
Other than the fact that he thought it might be magical, no. He just
said, something about the egg, I want to say.
It was, I recognise it. Rayla draws the symbols and he's like, oh, I've seen those before. I've seen them on a cube back in the lodge.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And it's like, so it might be magical.
So maybe
Let's
he
go
thought
get
you
it.
could learn magic with it. Yeah, okay.
I mean, that thing will open up at some point and then it'll have something in it, probably.
Almost certainly, yeah.
Or
they'll take it to a place where all 6 of the elements are strong, and then it'll open up and pull apart, and then we'll have something inside that means something.
Callum's dad. Hello, son. like just whatever. It's
the
building up to something.
Conflict stems around Rayla's bin, whatever that thing. The
I love that idea,
band,
by the way.
Which is awesome.
That's power of tool.
Right, and then the visual of like her arm getting more purple. I thought that was actually pretty effective as a storytelling device, and also kind of terrifying. Like when she says like, "Yo, eventually it'll just fall off," and I was like, "Dang, that's like really strong magic."
And that's painful,
but also
as well. But also her
character
willingness as well to do that.
Exactly. I was just gonna say that her willingness to just be like, all right, I'll lose an arm. It's worth it because she cares. And I mean, if anything, at that point, when they know that you guys really need to trust her with that egg, she's willing to lose a hand
because she hasn't killed you yet. You know, like because the solution is kill you, and then the thing will come off.
Yeah, she makes the point. Of, not only could she easily take the egg from them, but she would also have her problem solved if she killed one of them. So it's like, why don't they trust her here?
No, but I like that though, because they go through those growing pains, and it pays off where they come together, and it makes sense because Callum is smart enough to tell she's not telling him the truth about something. I love that he doesn't trust her for that reason. Like that makes total sense. So I buy that.
Completely agree, but I meant to say that I like that it comes up. It makes no sense and they address it. Sorry, it wasn't a criticism of the show's design on that level. I like that it comes up and is explored and as well that in kind of like a poetic irony, when they do trust her, it goes wrong for like almost the exact reason that was explaining why they should trust her, because she drops it when it touches the hand
into the ice.
Yeah, I like the it's not like the tragic irony, because it's not really a parallel there, but it's enough where it's an amusing connection narratively.
Yeah. But it's a nice sort of bait and switch, the setup there where like Ezrin thinks that Callum's being racist. It's like, no, I'm not. Like she's just obviously lying about something, and I don't trust her. But it's not because she's an elf. Like I really enjoy that setup, and that's what I mean. That's when I start becoming like, oh, these are like people, and they have like human reactions to things, and they have thoughts. And like early on in the series, I was like, everyone's just like it's almost like they're an avatar, like where they just like typed in like stand-in data or dialogue, which is like, we may or may not come back to this later on. This is just set up. It almost feels like they're props for like planning out a story and not really moving through it,
The dialogue was another thing that they really improved very quickly in the series, but was suffering to begin with, because there was even stuff like they found dark magic, which let them use dark powers, and the moon shadow elves was constantly spammed everywhere. And when people were talking about the bindings and that ritual that we all really like, with the wrappings, it was a cool idea for a ritual, but even the things they were saying were so kind of cookie cutter cheesy with the whole description. But then you get, like I say, these small nuanced moments between the characters further on in the series, like that with Callum. And there are so many other examples that we'll call on, I'm sure, that make you think, no, there's actually some serious thought going into the writing between these, the interpersonal relationships, the thought processes, and the intelligence of the characters. Amaya, prime example, her and Viren would have been such a powerful scene if we knew what Viren's shtick was, or even if it's a consistent shtick to begin with, whether he'd be good or bad.
Well,
none of it has.
Now that
it's all really cool.
Yeah. Now that you bring that up, the whole Amaya thing, and like wondering like how it would have played if we knew what Viren was up to. Even now, like the interesting thing, this is like on the one hand, I like this, and on the other hand, I hate this. I hate not knowing enough about the world so that I feel like I know where to go here. But I do like that in the moment, other than the fact that Claudia is wearing black and is practicing like dark magic or whatever, when she's arguing with them back in Catullus, where they're like leaving through like the dungeons, and they've taken off with the egg to take it back to the Dragon Mother, we have no idea if that's the right move. Like as an audience, we objectively don't know if that's the right thing to do. Like that's just sort of Ezrin being nice. Like I'm going to take it back to his mom. Like what if that's bad? Like I mean, we don't know. It probably is not going to be like it's probably not going to be like a bait and switch there. But
a bait.
It's switch, true that there's. Yeah. Okay. I forgot about that. Yeah, but we don't know a lot about this world, and sometimes I go, okay, that might be good for the drama where we don't know who's in the right, and other times it is just sort of confusing. And we need to talk more about Viren in that regard. I think we've covered that.
It's the fact that it does both, though. Like you said, you get equal parts. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's what? Like what? Is this way? Should I care about it if it is? And if it's not, what? There's so many. Again, the consistent inconsistency. You can never quite tell.
Now, when it comes to like on the subject of Amaya and Viren, I kind of want to talk about like, well, is there anything we want to talk about before she departs to go back to the breach?
Well, we hear about the connection to the royal line and her sister, which is eloquently done.
Yeah, so they established she's the sister of the mother who's dead. She's not Harrow's sister then. So
she is Aunt Amaya to Callum.
Yeah, when they called her Aunt Maya, I was like, is she the real aunt? She like that fake aunt who's just like always there? She's like an aunt.
Yeah. The petty aunt who just talks shit about everybody. But everybody has one of those, don't they? But anyway, when she like establishes when she's like leaving and she's like, she's telling Gren like, look, don't trust that guy. I go, yes, this makes sense. Or like when Viren's all, I'll send my children to look for the princess, and I go, please don't say yes. Why would you agree to that? They're his children. You don't like this guy. Like, why would you do that? And she's like, no, we're not going to do it that way. I go, yes, that makes sense. Yeah. It's immediately pointless because Gren is like thrown in jail like 30 seconds after she's gone around the corner.
And
that's
so stupid pointless as well. Like, it undercuts his competence and by extension hers, because if he's this ridiculously dim, then why is she trusting him with it?
I would have been okay with him being captured if he seemed more bothered by it. Like, there's no gravitas to this. He's just like hanging out in the dungeon like, well, I guess I'm captured now. Like, that sucks.
Even before that, he's like, do you want to discuss your grievances at a later time? He's like,
that's the bit that gets me.
Yeah, okay. I'm like, bitch, what? No, that's why you ended up in the dungeon, for being an idiot.
If he had been just captured and immediately arrested, I could buy that, because what can you do about that? Guards immediately flank you when you're gone. But if he said, meet me back here at 9, I was like, what? It's like, I mean, obviously he met up at a previous time before that and then got taken to the dungeons, but he just goes with this. What is he say? Why is he immediately not on like red alert from this ridiculousness? So it's all again coming back to the whole ruining of the tone and the moment for the sake of a Bayface joke. And it's for him, unfortunately, it's continued because we don't get any of him, wailing at the dungeon walls in anger. He's just like, oh, I guess this is a thing now.
This is also this is a reference for like the Star Wars fans. In Knights of the Old Republic 2, there's also a useless commander named Gren. I just thought that was funny.
It's a common name
for useless people.
For useless people.
I don't remember that.
He's the one that throws you and your party in jail when you get to Telos.
I have to check something.
I don't remember it. I know the sequence. I don't remember his name.
Yeah. God, I hated Telos.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's
it's
the
Gen Greymane, not Gren in World of Warcraft. I thought there might have been a competent one there, but never mind.
World of Warcraft.
Yes. Oh, okay. So there's a person again, but yeah.
Plot-wise, it was her dropping the egg, and them having the egg is now like dark and seems like it's dying, so they have to go find help for it before they can take it to Zandia. Zandia is that the name of it? Zadia. Yeah, Zadia. Sorry, Zadia.
Does anyone else think this was dumb? Like with Rayla, this is like the one thing I was like, Rayla, what are you talking about? Like, I mean, when she's all, he has to, like, that little kid has to go get the egg and like swim with it through the freezing lake. I thought that's
like letting him. I was like, you're an elf who's got pretty good like physicality. You should be able to go down there, rescue him, and bring him back up. I don't know what it was.
There are two main problems with this.
He has to do this.
There are two.
He has to do it. And I'm going like, why does he have to do it? Like that doesn't make sense.
There are two main problems with this that I have. Sorry, but you go first.
No, well, my issue is, okay, I get it if she was like, no, I believe in him, he's going to do it, he's great, okay. And then when he doesn't come up, she's like, oh, man, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, my bad. I thought, she literally says, I thought he could do it, sorry. But, that's not even, I mean, it's definitely a criticism there, but for me, the main two problems are, one, this is played off like it's, like this is a pre-existing problem where they've both had different levels of trust issues, like, the parent story where one doesn't push their kid enough, they kind of protect them, Finding Nemo kind of style, Dory v Marlin for treating the kid. So that hasn't been set up, so that doesn't play, not that it really should because they're brothers, not parents anyway, but that doesn't play on that level. But also there's the undercurrent of she's terrified of water, so that's not why she doesn't jump in, but that with that present in the narrative,
she actively stops Callum from going down there. Like, just let him do it. Like, what are you doing? I don't understand. How could help be a bad thing right now?
And that's not what stops her from doing it. Yeah, and that's not what stops her from doing it. But the fact that is a thing, it kind of pollutes the moment for me. It's like, well, this could be interpreted wrong. Not that it is, but it's a weird decision to have. And it didn't fly for me. It didn't float for me.
I think it could have been a really cool character moment for her being afraid of water. We've established she's afraid, what it does to her, blah blah blah, where she's like, fuck that, and then goes and saves. That would have been awesome. That's like,
and then that'd be like, oh, we like her. You, right?
Yeah, like seriously, that would be like this sort of like seal of approval,
It was a strange beat, although like in terms of the actual scene playing out, I did like how much time they spent on the zoom out when it was the long shot of him just being under. So like moments like that, like okay, there's some filmmakers here who are doing they're pretty good with film language, but just that some of the beats just aren't. Like, why is that beat even a thing? You know what I mean? Even though it's well executed.
The isolation, no joke. I would have preferred the quiet. It all kind of works.
Yeah, I would have preferred if he'd just like defiantly gone down there, like, and they couldn't get to him to help him. Like that would have made more sense for why there's no drama.
Too late. Yeah.
Or too late, whatever. Yeah, but I mean, it seems very like you guys could have made this much easier, like on yourselves. And I don't get why you didn't. But it's the moment you're talking about, Antoine, is good. It's I think the only time that Ezrin really does something of consequence in that way. So like I guess they clearly want him to have his moment in the show.
Even later with a plan, he says, "Well, I'm just holding up bait. I'm not really doing anything." Right. It's like even then they're making a joke about it. So yeah, I think it is the one thing he does in this show, apart from the introduction when he helps them escape. Claudia and Rayla, obviously.
Yeah, he does little things, but I mean, like when you talk about like, okay, what justifies your place in the group now that we're on a quest? I don't
see it as a trio. It's definitely a duo plus Ezrin right now.
He just carries the egg.
3-on-3 plus Sokka.
He is the hobbits of the fellowship.
He's got a role as of like the egg hatching, of course, but yeah, up until that point, it is like, okay, you're just tagging along.
Oh, what about Amaya's Hunter? That's at the beginning of this episode before the ice stuff.
He was so cool looking.
I kept waiting for that guy to come back, but she left him in the ditch and he never got back. Like, please come back.
That's the point actually. That's the point actually that we can mention. So many characters appear out of nowhere and then completely disappear in this series. The priestess walks onto screen in the first episode, walks off screen and doesn't appear again until the funeral, when that's the last kind of significant thing she does in the coronation. Why do we get these cool snapshots of people that have nothing to do with anything supposedly? And if they are going to have something more done, why isn't that set up as a more present feeling? Because you say the Hunter's awesome. He's really cool, and he just appears and disappears as necessary.
I'll forgive the priest because I'm not convinced she's anybody. Like she might just be there.
I think it was just
she has a name,
yeah,
and she appears like 4 times.
Did she prefer? I thought she was just in that one sequence.
No, she's the one who calls him to the king in the first episode. And the guy goes, "He didn't actually stab me." And then she's also in the funeral and the coronation. And the funeral scene when she says no, and they all just with the fire was awesome. I love that moment.
No, yeah, I get that. I'm just not sure that they have plans for her like at all. So if they don't, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think she's just supposed to just be side character.
She was like she's like the Kuvira of book 3, where you have no idea who she is and you don't care until book 4. You go back and she's in all those scenes.
She's going to make a play for Queen, clearly. But yeah, the Hunter is prime example of it though. He just kind of disappears. And if it was something like in Avatar with
Much Demand.
Yeah, if it was something like that kind of situation, it makes sense because it will come across later. But
speaking a little bit too much for that, or like he's trying to be part of the story too much for that to make sense. You know what I mean?
And that kind
he's
of
not
character
being Darth
as well.
Maul right now.
Yeah, and also that kind of character isn't introduced into the setting and the story this early in the pacing. You need more breathing room in the overall plot narrative to have that kind of character play properly.
Yeah, I don't like the way that they used his dialogue because it was very. What they made that was okay. Just in case anybody doesn't get the inner turmoil inside Rayla, like let's just speak it. Like that's what it felt like to me. It was clear to me that she was wrestling with herself and didn't want to tell him the truth, and but it wasn't because she's evil or anything or sneaky. It's okay, you're my friends now. I don't want to tell you that I was on a mission to kill you. And I don't want to tell you your dad's dead and that my friends did it. Like there's all these things I don't want to tell you, but I need to keep the group together because we're on a quest now. That was all very clear to me. And this guy just literally shows up. He's like, "Hey, they don't know the king is dead, do they? They'll hate you when they find out." It's just like, this is terrible. Like, I mean, like,
it was really force fed.
Yeah. And I felt like there was something Runan said that was like that earlier for me as well. But it keeps doing that where there's tension that I can see because the characters are acting the way that they should, and I don't need somebody to say it. Well, that's what it was.
It was a mirror.
When she was stalling. No, it was like when she was stalling. And she was all, and he was all, "You're just trying to stall me." It was like, I get that. You don't need to say that. Just, if you really saw that, don't have a conversation about how she's stalling. Just go. Just go like, I'm off. Like, I have better things to do. It was too on the nose. That's for the kids. And I don't like that kind of writing. because kids are smarter than that.
Yeah,
they don't need to pass that. Yeah, but he was a good fight with the hunter whose name I don't know, even though they gave him one.
Yeah, he should have had more of a presence in the story, and there should have been more time allocated to that. But they can't do that with this 9-episode story. As we said before, this didn't have a beginning, it didn't have an end, and it needed many episodes in between to begin with. So the dagger scene or the dagger episode, sorry, and the wolf and the illusionist and all of this stuff is interesting and could be really cool as an individual episode. But you don't have time for this if you're supposed to be building up to some sort of climactic finale. It just doesn't work.
It's true.
Was he before the ice then? I think he was. Yeah, he was.
He was before the ice.
He's over the ice. That's why I said it.
Because he's what provokes her into kind of avoiding, thank God, the lie revealed situation. She just comes clean, which anyone sane should. And it was really effective as well. I liked that moment. Even if it was poorly timed in terms of the moment. It's like, you really don't, thanks, but you really don't have to explain it right now.
Yeah.
that was, again, good humor.
Yeah, but she also, they still don't know that the king's dead. She didn't get that part out.
But it wasn't her fault.
Still that.
To be fair, that's
it's going to happen, though.
Yeah, that's what I like about it.
The scene that you're saying that you don't want is going to happen at some point. True, they just didn't get to it this season.
It's true, but at least you'll have the excuse of, well, I tried to tell you back in the day. It's I hate that. The lies revealed is like the most overdone trope in existence, and it always sucks because it just drains time from the narrative and the characters because it always has to be resolved.
For it. It's coming. Maybe they'll handle it well.
Fingers crossed.
Who knows? Which basically they just have to do what they already did, which is like, yeah, okay, but let's focus on what's important. Especially because we can tell you didn't have a hand in that, really. So Ezra's sick, and they're in like the cave, and she's out gathering magical moon berries that make you not.
That totally reminded me of Airbender, a blue spirit.
Yeah, that was
the toads.
Weird.
And they don't go in your mouth. That seems doable.
The thing I liked about
Suck on them, of course.
I liked that it made clear that so they're half brothers. Because at first I thought, okay, so Callum is just like like an adoptee of.
I still didn't even understand that. I thought they were just step brothers or half brothers.
The way he speaks about the mother, he's drawing the mother's picture. He goes, and like Rayla's like, oh, that's your mom, and oh yeah, we lost her, and I go, okay, so they have the same mother. Okay.
But no, because I think who establishes that? Soren establishes that he's a stepchild, so it's weird that you would say half child.
Different father, same mother though, so it's half.
So it's half. Yeah.
He's not the king's son, but I think he is actually related to Ezran.
He's the step. It's because they keep saying stepson. They never say stepbrother. It's just always stepson. So you assume the step in your head.
Okay, you know what? Yeah. That's
they call him step prince.
Yeah.
That's such a complicated thing. Like it seems kind of ridiculous.
That doesn't even become relevant or worthy of mention until you don't have a son. So yeah, it's a bit strange. But it will be interesting to see whether or not Callum is the one who's the heir, though. That'll be again. That'll thing that'll come up. Whether or not it's Ezra or Callum first.
Why would it? Unless like his father was like the king before Harrow, I don't think that'll come up myself. I don't think there's like a reveal there in terms of you're destined for the throne. Like there's going to be like, okay, your dad is like a dark mage or like something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like or it becomes a situation where it's paralleled, so he becomes the advisor to Ezran in the same way that Viren was to Harrow. That kind of situation.
Yeah, that could happen.
You were like a brother to me.
But in this case, they actually are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seems that's what it seems to be to me. But I kept having that question. It's like, so why does the king have this kid then? Like, I mean, it's great that he cares about him, but like, did he wrong his parents or did he accidentally kill his parents?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Acquire him in some manner?
Yeah. But I think he is just okay. He got married and she already had a kid. And then they had another. So yeah, modern family, basically. But,
very modern family. That's kind of cool, I guess.
I think that's even why they chose to have like different races, even too. It was very modern to me.
And then
presumably his mother was Asian, right?
Yeah, or she's whatever Amaya is.
Because Amaya,
Is Amaya Asian?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
whatever. That was the interpretation.
I mean, well, in our world, yes, but in their world, whatever, they're just different.
Irrelevant anyway, but yeah, that was the interpretation I took visually speaking.
Right.
Yeah. Probably to do with a different kingdom as well. There's probably a connection there, which I'm sure we'll find at some point.
But yeah, the object of the 7th episode is her getting this band off because becoming very uncomfortable to the point where she can't even effectively fight or do anything.
That'd be painful, like immensely.
Right? Yeah. And so the initial thing is she's thinking that, and we get more world building about the iron. What was it? The iron, the sun.
The sun forged.
The sun forged.
Sun forged blades. Yes. But they also have sun forged armor. So is that also burning hot? Or just indestructible?
It can't possibly be.
No, I know. It's just initially it mentions at the start. So when they said when you forge them, so you got anything that can cut anything and armor that can't be cut at all, which is cool. I like the idea of it.
But it's kind of cool that it is a weapon from the magical lands or whatever. And I thought that was a cool moment just seeing that. And then also the fact that it didn't work, I thought was actually pretty cool. Even though she burned herself, I thought that was a good progression of the conflict going on. And then like, there's a catharsis at the end of that scene where it's like, oh crap, I really thought that was gonna work, and you went through like burning yourself and it didn't even work out for you. So I thought that was an effective moment.
Burning yourself and revealing yourself as well, because it was a costly
right.
Decision. But I love we mentioned about it before with the magic. I love the fact that doesn't work, because binding ritual magic tends to have, old magic, quote unquote, has to have that kind of consequence to have any real weight to it. If you could just cut it off, who cares? But this was the thing, a pact you entered into, so that kind of unbreakable bond, with the exception obviously of the ancient dragon magic, because that's always the thing. I thought that was really cool. I like the fact that it didn't just work.
Right. And overarching for the entire show, I think I really do like the magic system that they have set up, and sort of like the aesthetic and just the world around it. Like every time something comes up about it, whether it's like the primal stones or the runes that they have to make before they cast a spell, the weapon that we have here, the binding magic, I think all of that is probably my favorite element of the entire show, because I'm most interested in that whenever it comes up, versus like having any issues. I mean, I can't really think of any real issues I have with the magic system at all.
Aside from the lack of explanation on the dark magic, I agree. It's very engaging.
All of that.
The only hiccup I had was the one that we mentioned where her band stayed on, even though like it's supposed to be like a lifeline for Ezrin, even though like to me the promise isn't that he's alive. It's like did you kill him or not? Because you promised to kill him. You know what I mean? So it just seemed a little inconsistent for me that shouldn't come off just because he dies. It should come off because you killed him or because the dragon bites it off, whatever.
Well, it's not to say that it would have come off, that's what she believed at that moment.
That wasn't too much for me. Yeah. Misinterpretation of the magic on her behalf. That's believable, I think. But I do get where you're coming from in terms of the weight.
No, I buy that. I just can't believe you said that. What I just said, I expected you to like back me up. That's normally the kind of thing you have major issues with.
I would agree. On that instance, though, it didn't bother me. That was one of the ones where I thought, okay, fair enough. But yeah, again,
I thought it was a cheat in the writer's room for them to be hopeful. But whatever.
It's true. Though.
It's a little bit. I think because the part of the story, it was more of a resolution, that needed to happen probably there and then. Otherwise, her hand would be gone by the first episode of the next season or something.
The dragon biting it off, I'm fine with. I was just making fun of it because literally you were saying, Callan, that binding magic shouldn't be able to be broken, but you're fine with dragons doing it because dragons. And to me, it's it's just an arbitrary line to draw. It's funny
I completely agree.
But I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's because it is specifically in this setting as well, given the supposed importance of the dragons and magic. But the entire magic is explained with a giant dragon flying at the very start, so I can buy the weight of it. But similar to
that reminds me, the magic and of course the dragon lore and all that stuff. A lot of it reminds me of Skyrim. It's like Dragon Age, Skyrim. Which I love.
I wonder if these are going to be talking dragons or not. I don't know if
that would be really cool.
Almost
I feel like
certainly.
They are. Yeah, I feel like they are talking.
They are going to be. They have to be. Otherwise, why would they
be doing right?
The elves are in league with them.
And why would they call them king, prince? Why would they have such a power? But it needs to be some form of communication going on.
But also, literally, even though we didn't see this, in the beginning where they're like, oh, and then this happened and that happened. They called him Thunder because when he spoke, the blah, blah, blah. So if he speaks, for sure. The ground shakes or whatever he said. Unless they're going Skyrim with dragon speech where it's just speaking spells, basically. But I don't think that's worth going. That'd be too much of a rip-off, I think.
Off? Yeah. Did you guys catch that the narrator in the beginning when they were explaining the lore in the world was Ko, the face stealer?
Oh, I thought it was the king. I thought
It
it was
was
who.
not. That's a rare example of that not being me.
Like, I don't know.
Oh wow.
Was it? I don't remember. It sounded exactly like Ko. I was like, holy crap, that's
I'd have to
totally
look up on that. I didn't catch that. It might be, yeah.
I thought it
I'm
was
going to look that up right
King
now.
Harrow, but it might be both. So, yeah.
I'm pretty good with voices.
Well, while you look that up, so the second part of the episode, the B plot would be the kids trying to nurse the egg back to health again, so it can be lit up, and they talk to the, I guess the animal master.
Guy?
Yeah, I guess who like
that guy
explains
was like. That's where I had some issues. I was like, so there's like a guy who just knows, oh, I once heard of a legend about like a wounded animal, and you have a wounded animal, and that was like a total like a quest giver or something in our RPG.
It really was. It really was a quest giver because he didn't have a name. He's literally, I think he's like just the doctor. He doesn't have a name.
Yeah.
And he's totally cool with like, look, I won't tell anyone. Just tell me what all this is about, and it's totally
and
fine.
that too. I mean, granted, they're kids, so maybe they are a little bit too trusting because they're like, "Oh, nice guy who's helping us." But at the same time, I'm like, "What are you guys doing? This is can just create a war and like destroy your known world." And you're just like, "Oh, hey, yeah, we have this thing, like this very secret." It's like showing a nuke to somebody. Oh, I got this nuke. You know.
I would have. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kellen.
No, I didn't say anything.
He's back.
I'm currently trying to find this damn narrator, which is proving elusive.
Oh, I thought you said like you were gonna jump in. Sorry. I would have bought it a little bit more if this would have been cheesy as like all hell, but if he had like a bunch of magical creatures and not just like a horse that was scared inside of his place, and he was like, I've nursed these back, from the brink of death and blah blah. Like that's what I do is I tend to animals. I would have at least bought them trusting him then. Like, okay, well, this guy has the knowledge we need. But really, he was just like a guy with a horse, and he was good to animals, and he tended to them, and he's a doctor, and he's like, yeah, I once heard about that cursed like mountain over there. It just seemed, it is like, why do they trust him so much, other than the fact that the plot demands them to, because we're running out of time.
Because they had one scene with him, and it's like, oh, okay.
I also suspected that maybe he was going to be the old man from Avatar and betray them. It's like,
yeah, me too.
They're
I
up
thought
that
the
way.
same exact thing.
But see, that's the thing is like, there's no one hot on their heels anyway. So it's like the only people that
the brother sister who aren't.
Yeah, but they're like way
that
far
hot.
away.
Yeah, no, they're not hot on the hunter's closer, presumably than they are.
Yeah, but when you look at it, like the people that rally you together to get them out of that town is just like the townsfolk because she's an elf. It's not like anybody with any kind of ability or clout or political influence. So it's really not. There's not much stakes there, I guess. Even though it feels like there should.
I cannot find anything on this guy, by the way. It doesn't seem to be the same person, but it may be. So I don't know.
Oh man,
I have not the time to dive into it. Sorry.
He sounds like a Three Dog from Fallout, which is the same voice actor as Ko. I do know that. Fallout 3.
Oh, Three Dog. Yeah,
Can confirm. He's also Nazir, Nazir in Skyrim.
Nazir? Who's that? That sounds like somebody.
A person in Skyrim.
Nazir?
Do you know how many people?
Is that that one guy? Nazir, isn't that one guy? Do you go to the Cloud District often?
No,
there are so many of
that
those.
can't be him.
He's Dark Brotherhood.
Oh, right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, he's like, I think.
Oh, yeah. I didn't. That's like the only faction I didn't do. I killed them all because that's what I do in my gameplays. Anyway, straying off topic.
But yeah, way off topic on that one.
Last two episodes are kind of bunched together. It's their journey into the cursed caldera, and then meeting Ellis and Ava.
Yeah.
Question: Are
who
they
may or may
joining?
not become be the last?
I get the
Team
impression that this is the last member of Team Avatar for some reason. But
the thing is, if they are, what purpose do they serve? What's their function?
That's what I was about to say. It's like, so
I
have my three-legged, not magical wolf, which is fine. It doesn't have to be, but it is like, okay, why do we need a little girl who has a father? Apparently,
they need an Appa.
But they can't.
Well, no,
but
Bates was like, no, Bates Momo. Bates Momo.
They'll have a Momo and an Appa,
yeah. But how are they supposed to all ride on a three-legged dog? I mean, they shouldn't be able to do half the things that it does with those three legs.
I know, even with the illusion going on.
Yeah.
But I did
like that
character, guys.
Bates pretty cool.
It was a cool moment, and don't get me wrong.
Sassy.
If these were 3 episodes in the middle of a much longer series, I'd have no problem.
Right.
But it's the fact that this is the finale.
But it's the final one.
Is
like,
she joining? Is she not? Again, it comes back to that inconsistency.
It does not feel like a finale at all. At all. There's nothing resolved. There's nothing resolved. There's nothing that except for maybe there's a promise for more, but it's not. I don't feel like a cliffhanger ending should be the thing that satisfies a story, and it kind of seems like it's happening that way now, especially with these Netflix shows. But I don't feel like I just like, okay, yeah, that was the story that I got from these 9 episodes.
It's also like I don't want to skip directly to the end here, but since we're talking about that, I would have preferred if it had been like a more imposing cliffhanger, because it's just like Viren looking like, oh, I know where they are, but like you're way the fuck away.
Yeah.
Like, if he had seen that and like literally like instantly teleported over there, like showed up out of a portal, like and like, he's like, oh, I've got you now, like, and then it would have been like, oh, now we're screwed. And it was like to be continued. I would have thought, okay, that's a cliffhanger. This was sort of like everyone knows where everyone is now. like
and even the people who are actually actively tracking them, they're way further away. They're really far away. Not much further closer than he is. So it's like, well, what does this mean exactly? And the
Though at first I thought they were going to be on the same mountain, because they mentioned before we have to be on top of a mountain to be able to track them. I was like, oh, okay, so they're just going to see each other at the top of the mountain, but then they're at a completely separate mountain. That's like
that's what
I had the same
too.
thought. Yeah, plot convenience, but at least it would make narrative sense why they're doing this. But apparently not. Although the cool impact of the spell was nice, like ridiculously convoluted, but that's what I love about magic. But the actual impact of the shot going up was very impactful, for lack of a better word. I liked the visual feel of it all.
I also liked the way that they got it to work, because I completely didn't call her braid being caught on the tree as like a plot device. I was like pleasantly surprised that came back as like a thing.
Yeah.
Because it happened, but it seemed like it was just part of the action sequence where she was escaping from Amaya's troops, and I was like, okay, so she almost got hurt, and then she dodged it, whatever. And then when it goes back to that, I go, oh, good, that's cool.
Somebody's colossally terrible at collecting their arrows, but yeah, apart from that, I completely agree.
Hey guys, guess what? It's the same guy.
Is it? You found it?
Oh, okay.
Excellent.
How'd you do it?
It's on IMDb.
I could not find it on
so
IMDb.
Callan's Googling skills are terrible.
I went on my Google foo has failed me. I was on IMDb and it wasn't showing me anything. That's good to know.
Him.
I also I want to say another moment that I thought was good between with Soren was I laughed at the moment where he's all, they have the scent. It was like for 5 seconds, and then he encountered the river. It was like, oh, they've lost it.
I thought that was cool too. I was hoping actually that they would keep using the boat. I'm like, no, keep using the boat, because they can't track you, because I sent the tracker like almost immediately, and I'm like, he's gonna track footprints and
also,
stuff on land. So keep using the boat.
It's faster, more comfortable, easier. It's apart from the whole queasiness and fear, there's not really a downside to this.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially considering you can apparently survive giant falls over waterfalls.
Yeah, I thought that was a little crazy.
Oh yeah, I thought that they would have that would have been a bigger thing, but it's just like, oh, down, and then we continue. Like, I knew that was coming up. Like,
danger?
Yeah.
I thought they were gonna have to pull some last minute shenanigans to get themselves out of the boat. The boat gets destroyed, and then they're forced to walk.
Yeah, that's the standard fare with that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that makes more sense, but I like the gesture of, okay, we're not going to do that because you don't like it. Like, I think that's good.
I liked the execution of the gesture as well, where you just kind of, let's just push it away again. it was a nice little moment.
But I like too that they had the little fun moment too. Like, maybe she'll get over it. It's fun. It's fun being on a boat.
Yeah, I have never hated water more. I'd buy it from you. This makes sense.
The other moment I thought was funny was when Callum did his Sokka thing and came up with his plan, and then which was like whatever, and then but when she went, awesome, is he all right? Because she just met him, and that was like a retarded thing to do. So I thought, oh, that's funny. I thought that was hilarious. But
the voice acting in it was good as well. Yeah, the voice acting was great with that one.
It's probably the best trio moment they have. Was the final episode with the plan, or not the final? I think the 8th episode was when that happened.
It was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that was such a Sokka moment. Like, it just, you could not deny. Like, man, they just ripped that straight from Avatar.
There are a few moments like that, but I'm glad that they at least gave him some definition beyond that. The voice actor, despite the fact that he's kind of doing the same voice, he does.
I think that's just his voice, to be honest.
That's what I mean. There's a emotive spin twist to it that makes it, defines it as Callum rather than Sokka. It lacks the kind of confidence that Sokka has, in the presentation.
I mean, for me, it sounds like the same voice. Personally, I just hear
it's-
Sokka the entire time.
I think
it's
the voice.
same voice, but it's not the same personality for me. Like
I think that. No, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say he's just generally a little bit more serious than Sokka was for me. Like Sokka's very funny, and Callum isn't as nearly as funny for me.
I agree. I think that I was worried about that early on because I didn't know it was Jack DeSena going in. So when I heard his voice, like, holy shit, it's Sokka! Like immediately I knew it was Sokka. I was like, how come no one told me it was Sokka? You guys told me to watch this and didn't tell me it was Sokka.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. Probably should have done.
But I forgot about it pretty quickly. So I was like, oh, that's a good thing. It's a good sign. But there were those moments where I'm like, he's just being Sokka. He's like, all right, we're going to come up with a plan, or we're going to do this or that. Or I'm like, this is totally what Sokka does in all of Avatar. I do agree, though, that he's not as funny. But when he is funny, it's a very Sokka of him. So.
Yeah, completely agree.
And I'm glad that he's not exactly the same. Because, nothing against Sokka, but I don't want it to be completely like riding on the coattails of Avatar. I want it to be like its own thing. Yeah.
For sure. But I think too is like enough time has elapsed where the kids watching it now aren't going to think Sokka like we are. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sorry,
yeah.
that just reminds me. That reminds me because you mentioned the voice. It's a small thing, but did anyone else think that we were going to have a character that didn't have a voice for a significant portion of the series when he had the voice taken away at the start?
Yes, I thought that was.
I thought
then
that was going to be cool. He has to rely on the runes or something.
I knew that.
But I
knew that wasn't going to happen. Sorry.
Because of the, I thought of it and I was like, whoa, that'd be so cool, like immediately. But then I was like, it flipped back to like, no, they're going to use it because they cast, Jack DeSena. So I'm like, there's no way they would waste that voice,
But I like that it's there as a thing that can happen to them, going forward. Like I don't mind it not continuing.
Could be a
idea.
conflict later.
I have no idea why they did that unless it's going to come back later because it was kind of like a waste of time.
Exactly.
Especially if the king was already turned into a bird and like Viren could have just not bothered because like nobody would have been in there and heard it. So I mean, it was like this is like a waste of. And also I thought it looked hilariously too much like Ursula and Ariel. Yeah, exactly. Like that. It was like this. This is not. I mean, it just seems. It doesn't seem like. The line between paying homage to something and ripping off was really being blurred right there.
Yeah.
It was the exact same scene.
And also he had like 10 seconds to scream and he just stands there gawking. It's like, this is not an official plan.
I think the fact that it's undone almost immediately is like, you guys better do something with this later. Otherwise, why?
Yeah.
But I also knew it wasn't going to happen because I saw the trailer and Antoine said it's only 9 episodes long and he started watching it before us. I go, okay, he's not going to have this like handicap for very long at all, So yeah, I knew that for meta reasons that wasn't going to be a thing with the voiceless character.
Would have been cool for him to have to be voices though for the rest of it. Like he would have a connection to Amaya with the signing. Then I'd think that would have been an interesting story mechanic. Even if Rayla could read sign or something, and she was. It might happen
again later on where he has an extended time. Maybe not him, but someone has extended time where their voice is gone.
Yeah, I just like the idea of him having to use runes as well, and having to find a fix for not being able to shout the magic word or something. It would have been a lot of interesting things you could do with that.
It's interesting with the magic system that you can like have half a spell and still be able to do stuff with it. That's interesting. Because before he finds out how to cast it, he can just sort of hold it and connect something with it. So yeah, it is.
Or throw it at someone.
That was the other thing I wanted to mention when Antoine mentioned actually when you said about the whole different types of uses. I like the fact that they're attached to different body parts as well. With the whole you blow for Aspero and you have the lightning hand for the Fuminous. Is it Fuminous? I think it's Fuminous.
Because
Fulminous. Fulminous. Yeah, it's Fulminous.
Yeah, because it reminded me of Fusrada.
Yeah. You're not wrong. The whole the way it kind of implements different body parts as well. Just the nice little nuances to the magic that aren't really significant story wise, but just the nice little bits of flavour to the world that I'm really excited to see what they do with more of. Particularly when we get to Zadia and we see the elves.
Yeah,
I'm actually really interested to see what that place like looks like and feels like. It sounds awesome.
Because they hyped it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
The constellation I want to see. That'd be so cool.
That's the one I'm looking forward to because like there's just that close-up shot of like the hands like spreading out the map and like their skin is like speckled with stars. I go, what are they capable of? Especially because like Moon. Okay, so they turn invisible and like their deal is like warping perception because the Fae or whatever she is that like the fairy of the woods, right?
The illusion lady,
yeah, like her deal is illusions. So I mean that seems like that's what like the Moon vibe is. So like stars have to be like something else. You know,
Mm.
it's even though they're like permanently sort of translucent, in terms of like the way that they look. What's their ability? Because like
I
the
imagine
primal
it has
sources,
something
they
to
all
do
have to
with
be vastly
divination.
different.
I
Right?
imagine it has something to do with divination. She was the one who spread the
Uh,
map.
That would make
so
sense.
there's the
That
whole
makes
laying.
complete sense.
There's the lay of the lands with the map symbology. The fact that it's obviously the stars and the divines.
But
So
what? But if you had a
Galadriel
stone,
style.
if you had the star stone though, is that like all you could do is see the? Oh, maybe you could change the future or time travel. Oh, okay.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I'm thinking.
all right.
I'm thinking more ethereal Galadriel style. That's what I'm thinking. Like
But if you
more
have
the
the
most powerful,
stone, it
but
has
not
to be
willing
better
to
than
use
that.
it as much, kind of thing.
The stone has to be more than that. Like just seeing the future, because
Oh, yes.
otherwise, why would you need to learn like runes and stuff for that?
Mm.
I want there to be more to it. I guess is what I'm saying when it comes to the primal star stone.
I'm looking forward
But
to the
anyway,
distinction between the sun and the stars as well, because they're the same thing.
Because the stars are far away, Callan.
Yeah,
duh.
I'm
Like,
looking forward to the in-universe explanation.
Yeah.
for
That's
that.
the first thing I thought when the intro came on too. I
Yeah,
was like, oh,
same.
these things are overlapping quite a bit.
Mhm.
the thing is like I can accept that because we orbit this star and it's like the source of our warmth. So whatever. Like I mean, in Harry Potter they study the stars, you know,
Oh yeah,
and it's like
it's no issue. You can you fix it with abstractions easily, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that. Because if they leave it like without mentioning there's a difference, then it's weird, and there'll always be that hanging question.
It feels like they would because like when they have lines like what's the difference between like a rock and a stone, like you know when Ezra's doing his rock stone thing. So if that I wouldn't be surprised if like Callum just says what's the difference, you know, like at some
Yeah.
point and then someone explains it. Yeah.
Even if it's something simple like their sun isn't a star and it's something else, that's the easy way to explain it. But they need to do something with it. That's all, just to make it interesting, if not logical.
Mm. So we're not actually talking about this episode. I noticed.
That's a
Like,
good
with the one
point.
where
Well,
they're
there's
like,
not much to talk
Well,
about.
no, we did. I mean, it's literally just her telling them all this stuff, and then revealing the dog leg situation,
They go on this journey. They have the
and then
we
of course
mentioned the character
bursting
moment.
of the dragon prince.
Yeah, we mentioned the character moment with the team kind of fully solidifying, even though we don't quite know whether or not she's even going to be a team member and if she is, what she represents as part of the dynamic. But it's still a good moment in isolation. So that we mentioned that earlier on.
what did she really do? I remember Ezrin and Rayla giving each other sort of confidence with their talk. Like
Same thing.
Ellis?
She was excited about him being a mage and said, "That's really cool. You
Excited
should
about him
I
being
feel
a
like you
mage,
should be
right.
pretty cool without the stone. I think you should be pretty cool."
Yeah. Okay. Right. And that's totally. I've been calling that since like the beginning. Is like he's going to learn to do stuff without the stones. Yeah.
No question. But I mean, if nothing else, it's set up as a thing that you can do in the world, whether or not he's capable. But it sets up basically the significance of why he's willing to, or at least a narrative, tie to him smashing the stone at the end.
Yeah, I was going to say that's going to create a pretty big problem for him if he has to use a stone.
Mm. And Ozymandias is born. I can't remember the full name. Ozymandias?
That is it, isn't it?
Is it?
They call him Zim for short.
Right.
So
Yeah,
would be
just
Ozymandias,
Ozymandias.
right?
Yeah, Ozymandias.
I don't know what
I'm
you're
not sure if
talking
I'm saying
about.
that wrong. But yeah, Ozymandias is born. regardless.
It's either Ozymandias or Ozymandias, and Ozymandias is like the real name, so they probably changed it, so it's not that. He's born and is
Welcome to Hogwarts.
He's adorable. Let's talk about that. I was getting a real Spyro
Yeah, he does look
deal.
like Spyro.
I was
So
like, oh,
true.
that's cute.
Yeah, I wasn't Spyro. I got something else from it though. It reminded me of something. I don't know what it was.
Was it a dinosaur movie? What was
Yeah,
the name of
yeah.
that
It was.
dinosaur
There was.
movie?
I got a Triceratops feel from that thing. But I don't know what.
Which kind of makes sense.
that.
I always
Land
feel
Before
like
Time?
dragons were supposed to be like
Possibly,
that. Yeah,
but
Land
I
Before
never
Time.
had a connection to Land Before Time though, so I don't know why that would.
Like Spike from Land Before
Yeah,
Time.
I don't know.
Definitely Spyro for me.
Yeah, it reminded me of something though. And either way, it invoked various different images because the design I think was pretty cool. The dragon's design was I mean, by no means original, but it was nicely executed.
I don't know how to end this talk. Like,
Yeah, I know. It's like
feels like
it's
it
the
feels
same
like
way the
end.
show ends.
Yeah, I was gonna say it feels like the
Yeah,
end of the
for
show
sure.
where it doesn't feel like an ending at all. It's like, what do we say? Like,
Yeah, it's like a pilot season.
And
it's almost like
pilot season
so
with the
that
beginning
happened,
of the end chopped
you
off.
know, it's like
Right.
Yeah.
It's literally how it is. So it happened.
yeah.
But we
Jeez.
enjoyed the ride. It may be as inconsistent as it is, as messy as it is, as potentially sloppy as it is, as one-dimensional, even if engaging the characters are. we all still enjoy this. So it says something about the merit of how engaging you can make a product without true depth applied. It's kind of unique in that for me.
I will say, I'm giving it a little bit of a pass because I know of the connection between the head writer here and like his success with Avatar. If I didn't know about all that, I wouldn't have watched the show at all, period. Because I just wouldn't have been interested because there would have been no press for it in that way. And if I hadn't seen like Avatar, like if I was just like a random person and you said, yeah, the same guy did Avatar, I go, well, I haven't seen Avatar. We'll just watch it. I would go, I really hope Avatar is better than this. Like that would be my impression of it.
That's true.
Because I'm not really seeing much as far as it's really funny because of how like on a pedestal I've only just rarely become aware that he is. Like people give him a lot of credit for like what made Avatar good. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve that, but he's clearly not the only one. He worked well in that team. He wasn't like the be all end all of that series.
There's never a be all end all be all for any series ever. That and filmmaking is one of the most collaborative.
I agree with that.
Sure.
I agree with
ever.
that, but like even in the comments from like our last video,
right,
where we talked about the live action series, there's like people like dismissing it because he's not a part of it. I go, well, like literally he has a series on Netflix right now. Will you go watch that and be just as critical, please? Because I just don't see this. I'm willing to give it. Where I am with it is I actively. I don't need to see more. If they never get another season, I'll just go.
You
That's
wouldn't
kind
feel,
of
yeah, right.
Yeah.
You're
It's like I don't need.
What?
Yeah, it wouldn't be like Young Justice or something where I was really like, oh come on, I want to see more of that. And this is like,
for that to come out.
yeah, this is just like more like, well that sucks. That was a good idea, but I do like the people enough that I would like to see more. And the world it's like I feel like I only got to play in like a tiny corner of a really big sandbox. That's the way I put it. It's like there's all this stuff I would like to go do, but I'm stuck in like this one little corner and have barely scratched the surface. So yeah,
For sure.
I mean, and like likening it to Airbender, like at the end of that season, if they said, "Oh, sorry, we're not going to show you how he's going to fight the Fire Lord," at this point, for the show, I'm just like, I don't care about the dragon stuff at the very moment. You know what I mean? Like they could make it in season 2, make me desire, the outcome for this whole land, or realm. But right now, I'm just not fully on board. And what I'm more interested in is more of the world building stuff, which isn't something that usually carries a story. It's usually the characters' goals. While I do like the characters, I don't really care so much for their goals right now, and them accomplishing those, or really fully know what some of them are. But
right,
pretty much any of them are, as much as we like them.
I guess because of I guess we were saying before the headcanon that I'm kind of establishing for myself makes the world more interesting. Like when I think about it, like, and I've been thinking about this like a lot since I've watched it last week. It's been in my mind, not necessarily on the merits of what the show has presented, but what I kind of hope for it. Like, this could happen, that could happen. That kind of a mentality. So yeah, it's a weird dichotomy that I got going on with the show.
Very weird.
It's like any good kind of world-building setting construct. It inspires, innovation and evocative thinking in the viewers, the experiences. You should it and go, oh, that's cool. Or should take this and I could work that here and I could play with this. This show has so much potential on its shoulders. It needs to reach up and, pick it up because it hasn't done yet for me.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it's as enjoyable as it is, despite that, says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's colorful and fun. It's got that going for it, like Airbender.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
but
it didn't do anything egregious. I will say that.
Yes.
It never pissed me off.
anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's I guess my opinion in opposition to everyone's opinion here is I actually didn't mind the character, or not even didn't mind the characters. But when I was first introduced to the characters in the first episode, I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. All right, this character's cool. And then it was shaping up to be what Airbender is to me, which is I love all the goddamn characters. But I think a lot of that was the expectation of what the characters were going to be. And sort of, oh, he's going to be this character and he's going to be like that character, and having high hopes, and then sort of having my dreams crushed in the next several episodes with the characters. Like, are they this? Are they that? They're not what I wanted them to be. Oh, now I'm sad, But it was definitely good enough for me to just keep watching it. I just binge watched all of it like at like 1 a.m. So that was cool, and it ended with a smile on my face, a little confused and a little like, oh, that was interesting. But like we compared it to Castlevania recently too, it's the same thing. It's like that was kind of cool. So
but
if
with
you make
Castlevania,
more,
I'm more invested in Castlevania.
Yeah,
I don't
no, for
understand
sure.
why. Maybe I have to like
because there was a lot more
that.
story, I think, with just the three.
Right, because
four
Belmont, I
characters.
feel like I know Belmont more so than I do Callum,
Yeah.
for instance.
It's
or
limited.
Rayla.
It has limited in scale, but it's nowhere near as inconsistent. I think is the main thing. This one
No,
fluctuates way more
the
than
way
that did.
the way that it ends with like, okay, I guess we got our team now. Kind of like a pilot thing, not really sort of an ending to a season. That's really all I'm comparing it to. But it's that said, if they make more, awesome. If I see it on Netflix pop up season 2, sweet. That's what I'm watching. But if they never make any, I won't cry. I won't lose sleep over it. So
Just because I know someone in the comments might say this and they'll be like, well, Antoine, of course you wanted Airbender to continue because you had 24 episodes with it. For context, at episode 9 for Airbender, we just came off of the winter solstice for Avatar Roku, and then the waterbending scroll. Obviously, you wouldn't want to end with waterbending scroll, but even if you ended with Avatar Roku, I would still be like, I want to know what happens.
damn.
You know what I mean? And
Precisely.
I understand who the characters are. Callan, for instance, your favorite episode in prison is within that little sandwich. So
I love that one.
They are more effective in those 9 episodes, and I feel like the Dragon Prince was.
That's because those are episodes, by the way.
right. With
These are
whole
not.
arcs. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're called chapters, and they're not. They don't feel like chapters.
They're not whole chapters, and it's not a whole book. But as worth noting as well is if the next series is going to be the second quote unquote element, source of primal magic, that means they're going to be going for 6. They cannot tell a complete story with 6 proportions of the scale they've done thus far.
That's a good point. Is why other than the fact that the assassination attempt occurs during the full moon, why is this book called Moon? He doesn't know shit about the moon.
That's
in
true.
terms of primal
it's all about
magic.
the sky
So,
because he's got the sky.
And even the storm dragon is born during we made a storm.
And that's the parallel between that, and that's us making the connection to Avatar, which is the first book's called Book 1. He spends the whole book looking for a master and trying to figure out how he's going to learn, water bending. Katara and Sokka are a big deal. They're from the water tribe. They're his first friends. So yeah, it's very water centric. Where this one, it's called Moon.
Yeah,
arbitrary.
And you gotta deal with it. Yeah, it's a bit odd.
That worked on so many levels.
But I'm looking forward to what we get on the next series regardless. I'm hoping they have many problems they need to fix, and they do need to fix them because these these major but not hugely impactful in terms of our enjoyment issues with this series are going to become much more significant if they continue and are not resolved quickly, because you can't maintain the enjoyment of characters like this on personality alone. They have to have some substance behind them. So we need that established. We need explanation of the setting. We need an explanation of the of what happened before, and everything needs to start coming in, because to not have drip fed us anything by this point with such a weirdly no beginning, no end pilot season, it's a problem. So
I'm semi-confident that the fan reaction, I think they'll be able to do that, and hopefully Netflix puts more into it so that they will have more. That's my hope. That's me being optimistic.
If nothing else, people have been watching it.
It
seems, even if they don't like it, they've been watching it, so they should be seeing the viewership kind of spike. If nothing else,
Yeah.
I would hope that future seasons have closer to 13 episodes rather than 9.
I think 13
and I also feel like it's good that you brought up what's it called, the Avatar Roku, that episode with because that's
episode 8,
episode,
by the way. Not even 9.
That episode. That's the episode that gives us the reason why this story exists.
Mm-hmm.
If you really think about it, Fire Lord Sozin will do this, and it's okay, I get it. You have to stop that
by
from
Summer's
happening.
End. You have to defeat him by Summer's End. That's the big
you
you have to learn the
time,
elements
for
right
you have done
now.
this before.
Yeah.
It's that could have been a season finale, by the way. That could have easily been a season finale.
It was basically
the whole
a mid-season
Zhao
finale.
And Zuko thing. Oh, I love that.
And that was episode 3. That was episode 3 as well, Zhao and Zuko.
Oh, I mean
I
the
thought she was talking
continuation of
about
that
the-
where.
Oh, in that episode.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. That's the power of Zuko. He shows up even in a Dragon Prince.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a good, that's a good note. It's because by that point we know what that story is going to be. Right now, we really don't know what this is. We know that Viren's kind of bad, and that if we get
Kids are kind of dumb.
Kind
They're
of dumb.
cool, but kind of dumb.
Yeah, well, Claudia is.
I
don't
liked
know about,
them.
Not so sure.
They're
But
both cool. But
up for debate. It's at least debatable.
Yeah.
And we know that Zadia is almost at war with not Catullus, but like everyone, like every human, I guess. And we also know that the dragon has been born. Whether or not that's a good or bad thing, we have no clue. But it seems to be nice.
Maybe that'll be the Appa. Maybe that'll grow up and be the Appa. Maybe it's like a fast growing thing.
I'm hoping
big
it's
they
going to
are.
be part of the team because if he's sort of a decisive role in whether there's war or peace or whatever, he's like the heir, to the dragon throne. I think that it would make sense if he's a part of the team. The same way that Ezran, who can talk to creatures, is probably an heir to.
Did it imprint on one of them as well?
I don't know.
As in,
like,
imprint
means like not infatuation. It's like
it's
when
another
a young
thing, yeah.
creature. Yeah.
Oh, wasn't it bait?
Oh, it was
bait.
Bait.
Was the
was
first
Bait.
one he saw. That's true.
Yeah, and he was like, So
Grumpy
was
uncle.
awesome.
Grumpy uncle.
Yes, I love that. But I think that's what they're going for, is like he's going to be a part of Team Avatar. Like if Appa were like an heir to the throne, and he had a key role.
Yeah, the only one that's going to be able to communicate with him for a while is Ezran.
Mm-hmm.
So
for sure.
That's
right for the time being. Yeah.
And I thought that was really like sort of combining the kingdoms.
Yeah, precisely. That'll be the political seal.
Get.
The fact that you've got the new king loving the humans, elves, and magical creatures.
But on the back of that, it just feels like we're going somewhere super generic. We're like, I'm going to sacrifice the dragon, and use his dragon essence to do something horrible. And or I'm going to take him over. I'm going to possess him, and I'm going to turn him against you, Ezran. And Ezran's like, but I'm Ezran. Don't you love me? So I mean, it just seems like, okay, we're not breaking ground with this. But I want it to be somewhere complete, and I want it to be somewhat compelling.
Agreed. And I think they could pull that off with a generic story here. I think the characters are not nuanced because they're not yet, but engaging enough where even if it was a generic plot, I could be on board with it regardless. So they just need to give us that at the very least, and hopefully more. But is that anyone else want to make any more closing thoughts, or is that us wrapping up now?
Yeah, I'm done.
In that case, I hope you've enjoyed our thoughts on the Dragon Prince. Disjointed, but hell, the show is too. So, what do you expect? Let us know in the comments down below anything that we haven't discussed that you want to talk about, anything we have done you want to discuss in greater detail. I am Reti4, and I still don't have an outro.
Oh, that's right. Greyjedi 91. Goodbye. Hope you enjoyed.
Antoine.
Okay. Antoine, Adelaide, peace and much love to you.
Bye.
Goodbye.